Chapter 270. It was a phoenix hairpin with a snow-white phoenix coiled around it. Every feather of the phoenix could be seen clearly, and it was so lifelike that it looked like a living phoenix. It was completely snow-white, crystalline, and translucent, and this revealed a noble and elegant aura. If one looked carefully, one would notice that no matter if it was the phoenix or the feathers on the phoenix, all of them were actually formed from numerous tiny talismans gathered together. It was magical and extraordinary. Only the refining method of the immortal cultivation world could present such an incredible scene. Even if the carving skills of the mortal world were superb, it would be difficult to create such a lifelike phoenix hairpin without a trace of craftsmanship. If it was taken to the mortal world, it would probably become a priceless rare treasure in an instant. This was a magic weapon. As long as one dripped one's blood essence on it, it would immediately recognize its owner. There was even a chance that it could be upgraded to the level of a natal magic weapon. Di Shitian had spent a lot of effort to make this phoenix hairpin. He had taken out a piece of 1,000-year-old warm jade that he had obtained previously without hesitation. Moreover, he had specially spent time learning a lot of formations. That was why he was able to refine such a semi-finished natal magic weapon. Yes, sister, this hairpin is so beautiful. If you wear it on your head, it will definitely make you more beautiful. When the vermilion bird saw it, she was also happy and full of love. In this world, women were innately fond of beautiful things. For the sake of their beautiful faces, which one of them would not desperately cultivate various secret techniques to retain their beauty? For the sake of a face-retaining pill, no matter how high one's cultivation was, they would be moved. This phoenix hairpin had been made by Di Shitian to be exceptionally beautiful. After seeing it, one could not help but fall in love with it. If sister doesn't want it, then Zhua won't be polite. The vermilion bird blinked and thought to herself, brother Di, it's time for me, Zhua, to show off my skills again. In the future, I won't stop until I extort dozens of gourds of spirit wine from you. While he was thinking, he said, in any case, it won't be long before Zhua transforms. When the time comes, we can bring her along. There was a hint of playfulness in his words. When Chen Shi heard this, her heart suddenly tightened. To be honest, she didn't mind giving it to others before she saw it. But after seeing it, she liked it at first glance. She thought to herself, this is from Di Shitian. There's nothing wrong with accepting it. But if he wants me to forgive him, a phoenix hairpin is just a dream. Thoughts spun rapidly in her mind, but her face remained calm and elegant as usual. She said, Big sister said no. Zhua, if you like it, I'll give it to you later. Medusa could not help but chuckle when she heard that. She changed the topic and said, Big sister Shi, the opening of the heavenly demon's secret dimension this time is a fortuitous encounter that only comes once every few thousand years. Don't you plan on coming with us? Among the southern barbarians, Chen Shi's cultivation was the highest. He could be called the demon king of his generation. If he could go, he could be called a powerhouse among the demon race. Perhaps, the possibility of obtaining a fortuitous encounter in the secret dimension was higher. It was reasonable for Chen Shi to go. But in the current situation, it seemed that she did not intend to go. Sure enough, Chen Shi shook his head and said, No, it's already a great opportunity for me to live in the 100 Flowers Valley. This time, I just passed the 19th demon tribulation. I just need some time to cultivate in seclusion and stabilize my current realm. Moreover, there can't be no powerhouse in the southern barbarians. If you leave, and I leave too, the southern barbarians may not be taken advantage of by foreign enemies. So, I won't go this time. What she said might be one of the reasons, but whether there were other reasons, it was difficult for others to know except for herself. Medusa smiled and did not probe further. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed quietly. On a mountain outside the southern barbarians, Di Shitian was standing side by side with Medusa, looking into the distance. After a moment of silence, Di Shitian said, Medusa, according to the map given by Chen Shi, if we ride the demon wind ourselves, it will take at least 10 days to half a month to rush there, and it will be too exhausting. I happen to have a flying magic treasure here. If you don't mind, let's go up together and reach the Misty Wave Island a few days earlier. Let's attend the gathering on the island." As he said, he turned his hand. With a flash of light, a snow-white spirit boat like a floating cloud appeared in his hand. It was only the size of a palm, but it had everything inside, just like a big boat in the secular world. There were cabins and all kinds of accompanying items. It could be said that there was nothing missing. He gently threw the spirit boat in front of him. Swish! With a flash of spiritual light, the palm-sized spirit boat immediately expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it had become abnormally huge, like a luxurious treasure boat. Around the boat, there were snow-white floating clouds constantly gathering and dispersing. The boat was hidden in the floating clouds. Even if it appeared in the secular world, it would not attract the attention of ordinary people. They would just think that it was a huge cloud. On the boat, there were clouds condensed from clouds that were constantly emitting spiritual light. It was incomparably magical and was a good treasure. This is the flying magic treasure of the core formation cultivator who sneaked up on me back then. When Medusa saw this spirit boat, her eyes flashed, and a trace of surprise appeared on her calm face. She remembered very clearly that she had seen such a spirit boat back then. That's right. When that cultivator was killed, his life source magic treasure was damaged and turned into spiritual essence, which was then swallowed by my 7 sins demonic zither. However, this spirit boat is still very well preserved. I didn't think of it before. This time, we're going to a place as far away as Smoky Wave Lake, so I found it and refined it. This boat is called the Floating Cloud Boat. With its speed, we should be able to reach Smoky Wave Lake in 3 or 4 days. Di Shitian gave a brief introduction. All flying magic treasures had a great advantage in speed, and this floating cloud boat was no exception. It was several times faster than flying with the Imperial Demon Wind. Moreover, the consumption of energy to fly the spirit boat was almost negligible. Swish! Without saying much, the two boarded the floating cloud boat together. Once they landed on the boat, they could clearly feel that this spirit boat had become bigger. Its range was still quite large. On the deck of the boat, there was a jade table where they could sit while slowly drinking tea and enjoying the scenery along the way. It could be said that they could kill several birds with one stone. While driving the spirit boat to Smoky Wave Lake. While sitting around the jade table on the deck, Di Shitian wasn't stingy. He took out the wine god's gourd and a set of wine cups, and poured a cup for himself and Medusa. On the boat, they drank while looking at the scenery along the way, and talked about some cultivation problems. On the way, they didn't seem to be bored. With the speed of the spirit boat, it was naturally extraordinary. Tens of thousands of rivers and mountains were constantly left behind. Sitting on the boat and looking at the mountains and rivers of the continent, it was really a magnificent scenery. The towering steep mountain peaks were almost innumerable. It was impossible to estimate how big the entire Zijin continent was. One simply couldn't see the end of it at a glance. On the 3rd day, the floating cloud boat rushed to Smoky Wave Lake as usual. Suddenly, a surprised voice came from Di Shitian's mouth. The spirit boat also suddenly stopped in midair. This stop seemed to be condensed in midair as if a huge white cloud had condensed in midair. Why did we stop? Medusa asked in surprise. The Smoky Wave Lake should still be some distance away. He secretly compared it with the map. In front of him, there were only mountains and rivers, and there was no lake. Obviously, they hadn't reached the Smoky Wave Lake yet. However, Di Shitian looked down in surprise. Following his gaze, he saw a group of demon clan hurrying forward on a demon wind. Looking at their direction, they were also going to Smoky Wave Lake. Logically speaking, there was naturally nothing to be surprised about since the demon clan was hurrying on their way. However, the appearance of this group of demon clan below greatly surprised Di Shitian. Look, these demon clan obviously don't have the cultivation of shapeshifting, but they all have the appearance of shapeshifting. It's fine if they can shapeshift, but how can their shapeshifting be so incomplete that their original appearance is exposed on their heads? Strange, it's really strange. I've never seen them like this in the southern barbarian lands. Di Shitian pointed at the group of demon clan in confusion. Medusa fixed her eyes on them. Indeed, there were no less than 100 demon clan members gathered together, and they all had the body of a human. It looked no different from shapeshifting. However, if one looked carefully, one could find that the shapeshifting of these demon clan members was not complete like that of Dai Shitian and her. There were deer heads, wolf heads, and so on their heads. They were in all kinds of strange shapes, and their faces were their original appearances. Moreover, there were many tails behind them, and one of their 2 hands was like a claw. Their faces were ferocious and looked really strange. Everyone could tell that they were demon clan members. Since Dai Shitian embarked on the path of demon cultivation, he had been practicing steadily step by step. From spirit beast to demonic beast, until he became a real shape-shifting demon clan member, every step he took was firm. However, he never knew how a normal demon clan member could shapeshift into this appearance. Oh, so you're talking about them. These are all demon clan members who have been enlightened by the demon awakening technique. It's said that very few demon clan members know this kind of demon clan secret technique. I didn't expect to see it here. This demon awakening technique is really amazing. It's worthy of being one of the great secret techniques of our demon clan. Medusa's eyes showed a hint of understanding, and a faint light shone in them. Demon awakening technique? What kind of secret technique is that? How come I've never heard of it? Dai Shitian couldn't help but ask curiously. He searched through all the memories in his mind. Whether it was the bloodline inheritance or the ancient records of the demon clan in the 100 Flower Valley, there was not the slightest impression of this demon awakening technique. However, from Medusa's expression, he could see that this was definitely an incredible secret technique. He thought to himself, could it be that this demon awakening technique is related to this group of demon clan members in front of me? To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 271. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. Medusa glanced at Dai Shitian indifferently. She opened her cherry lips and said, "It's only been 3 or 4 years since you came to the southern barbarian lands. You don't know a lot of things about the demon clan. Since we're here today, I'll tell you. Let's talk on the way." In the past few days, they talked with each other on the boat. They talked about their own cultivation and some interesting things they encountered. The unfamiliarity between them had long been eliminated. In addition, they were all members of the southern barbarian lands, so it was easy for them to make friends. Until now, they regarded each other as friends. "Shitian, I'm all ears." Sakura was naturally overjoyed. He waved his hand and let the floating cloud ship continue to move forward. He was quite interested in things that he didn't know about. Not to mention, this demonic technique seemed to have a huge connection with the demon race. He immediately guessed in his heart that if he could obtain this secret technique, it might bring him great benefits. It would definitely be helpful for developing his force. Sure enough, he heard Medusa say in detail, in fact, the demon awakening technique is a magical secret technique left by our demon clan ancestors in the ancient times. It is said that in the ancient times, almost all the clansmen who had some achievements in this secret technique knew about it. It is the most basic secret technique. It is also the most important secret technique. Because, while hurrying on the way, he listened. After hearing this, Dai Shitian's heart was almost in an uproar. An extremely shocked expression emerged in his chest. It turned out that this demonic technique was really an important secret technique of the demon clan. It had an extraordinary effect on the development of the demon clan. In this world, take the ancient times as an example. At that time, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was abnormally abundant. Even a place with barren spiritual energy could be compared to many of the cultivation sects of the present. They could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth by just taking a breath. It could be seen how abundant the spiritual energy was. Therefore, at that time, a large number of birds and beasts, all kinds of strange beasts, and natural spiritual beasts all transformed and stepped into the demon clan. At that time, the demon clan could be said to be blessed by heaven and had many strong people. They were able to dominate the world. It was one of the most powerful forces. But even in such a situation, Yi Zichen didn't care. Similarly, there were many birds and beasts that, due to their innate aptitude, were unable to transform into demons, take on human form, and cultivate even though they could absorb quite a bit of spiritual qi. Their own consciousness was also muddled. They only developed in the direction of mutated beasts and ferocious beasts. There were many such examples. After all, there were many demons, but there were even more ordinary birds and beasts. There were countless of them. Therefore, the powerful figures of the demon race gathered together and created a secret technique. This secret technique was the demon awakening technique. What was the so-called awakening demonic art? In truth, it was to use a secret technique to forcefully awaken the intelligence of ordinary birds and beasts that did not have the potential to step onto the path of demonic cultivation. Furthermore, once their intelligence was awakened, they would immediately take on a form similar to human form. However, there was a huge flaw in this form. It was just like what they saw just now. The transformation would not be complete, and they would show their original appearance. For example, if one was originally a rabbit, after being enlightened by the awakening yarrow art, their head might not be able to completely transform into a rabbit's head. This kind of flaw was unavoidable. In the world, Da Yang was 50, the heavenly Tao was 49. In this world, perfection was not necessarily a good thing. The price of forcefully being enlightened was that the transformation would not be complete. Another point was that their intelligence was hard to increase. In terms of cultivation, their speed would be slower than normal yarrow. But compared to not being able to cultivate, this was a very rare matter. Usually, the yarrow that had undergone the awakening demonic art were mostly subordinates of some yarrow king. When they fought, most of them did not fear death. They were the best subordinates to charge and break through enemy lines. What made the yarrow most fond of this technique was that when this awakening demonic art was used, it could enlighten a group at once. It was very convenient. Even though there was a taboo when it was used, and it could only be used 3 times a year. Each time, it could not enlighten more than 1,000, but it could not be denied that this was a wondrous secret technique. It was very important to the growth of the yarrow race. This awakening yarrow art is so wondrous. If our southern barbarians had it, then wouldn't we be able to turn large groups of beasts that could not form intelligence into yarrow, and increase the overall power of the southern barbarians? Di Tian's eyes revealed traces of strange light as he thought to himself, this kind of secret technique is of great help to the development of my forces. Such a little demon, although his aptitude is not very good, but as long as he is willing to work hard, he will have great potential. Also, they have the advantage of numbers. Awakening demonic art was a gremlin. Wasn't there a large gathering at Smoke Wave Lake this time? He could go and see if he could trade for this kind of secret technique. Thinking to himself, he made a decision. He would find the demon awakening art sooner or later and get it. This secret technique was a treasure to him. Our southern barbarians. Medusa lightly shook her head. She raised her head to look at the cloud sea and sighed. You do not know, but according to the records, after the great change of the yarrow race in ancient times, the human race rose up. The human race wanted to become the only ruler of the continent. So they took advantage of the great change of the yarrow race to launch a sneak attack and killed many experts. They killed countless of our yarrow clansmen. Billions of yarrow clansmen were massacred. At that time, the yarrow clansmen's blood dyed the entire earth red. A rain of blood fell from the sky for 9 days and 9 nights. Ghosts wailed and gods howled. There were countless casualties. The remaining yarrow could only retreat into the mountains and preserve the last thread of their bloodline. In this massacre, many of the records and methods of the yarrow race were destroyed. Countless secret techniques were lost. There were not even many that knew the awakening yarrow art. Up until now, the number of people that know the awakening yarrow art can be counted on one hand. It is also very precious. Even if they know, they will not easily tell others. It is very difficult to obtain it. Our southern barbarians naturally do not have such a secret technique. If it wasn't for Sister She, I fear that our southern barbarian yarrow race would not be as strong as it is today. When Medusa spoke of the bitter past that had been passed down from ancient times, Her voice was unusually bleak. Her voice was deep and carried a thread of hatred buried deep in her blood. So there was such a thing. Di Shitian realized, and his suspicions were resolved. All along, he had been puzzled by why the Yarrow had fallen to such a state of decline. Because, according to his personal experience, the Yarrow race had been a peerless and powerful race in ancient times. How had they suddenly fallen to such a state? It was hard to understand. Many of the demon race's cultivation methods and secret techniques had been lost. It was impossible that nothing had happened during this period of time. So that's how it is. Di Shitian nodded inwardly. With his intelligence, he had roughly deduced the cause of the decline of the Yarrow race in the blink of an eye. First, the demon clan had encountered an inexplicable change in the ancient times, causing the elites and experts of the clan to fall at the same time, or even go missing. This change was equivalent to destroying the countless top cultivation techniques and inheritances of the demon clan. This was a top inheritance, but at least there were other cultivation methods that could be passed down, and the Yarrow race would not completely decline. They could still hold on. However, the human race hit them when they were down at this time. They suddenly launched a campaign to exterminate the Yarrow race, and instantly killed countless experts of the Yarrow race who had survived. In the chaos, the Yarrow race had suffered countless casualties, and countless cultivation methods had been destroyed. In the end, most of the experts were killed, leaving behind some juniors who were not a concern. Under such circumstances, it was difficult for the Yarrow race to not decline. Those who are not of our race must have a different heart. Di Shitian was a human in his previous life, and in this life, he had a deep understanding of the human race's nature. He was very clear that it was only natural for the human race to do such a thing at that time. It was no wonder. How could there be two tigers on one mountain? If they wanted to be the main character, the Yarrow race would be the obstacle in front of them. Oh right, there is something I still don't understand. According to what you said, the Yarrow race suffered heavy losses when we fought with the human race back then, and almost all of our elites were destroyed. At that time, the human race should have no reason to let the Yarrow race go. How could they allow our Yarrow race ancestors to hide in the mountains and not care? Di Shitian was very puzzled about this. His curiosity was completely aroused in his heart. He was instinctively curious about the Yarrow race's past. Medusa frowned slightly and thought for a while. She shook her head in confusion and said, "I am not too sure about this. What I said just now was told to me by Sister She when we were chatting back then. If you want to ask, Sister She might know. Not many of the Yarrow race know about that period of history." Seeing this, Di Shitian did not ask anymore. He only thought about it in his mind, constantly deducing the various possibilities of the ancient times. He wondered what kind of unforeseen event could cause the peerless experts of the Yarrow race to fall and disappear one after another. He was very curious about that period of history. Vaguely, he guessed that what happened in the ancient times must be related to some big secret of the entire Zijin continent. Otherwise, it would be impossible to cause such a big impact. Come, try the 100 Flowers fairy wine that I nourished in the wine god gourd. It should be more than 10 years old now. Di Shitian took out the 100 Flowers fairy wine again. The time in the wine god gourd was different. It passed very quickly. 1 year outside was 10 years inside. It could be said to be the best treasure for storing wine. They chatted as they drank the wine. The floating cloud boat could move forward by itself after putting in spirit stones. It could not be infused with Yarrow Chi. Its speed was as fast as a white steed passing by, leaving a trail of white cloud light in the void. In the blink of an eye, another day passed quietly. The smoky wave lake was already in front of them. It would not take long to arrive. During this period of time, they encountered more and more demons, and all of them were rushing to the smoky wave lake. There were many of them. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 272. The smoky wave lake stretched for tens of thousands of miles. It was so vast that it could no longer be described as a lake. The blue waves connected to the sky. In the early morning, there would be wisps of smoke rising from the lake. It had the artistic conception of purple smoke rising from an incense burner under the sun. A cool breeze blew past, and waves connected the sky and the earth. Thick water vapor constantly spread in the surrounding air. The water in the lake was as clear as the spring water in the mountains. It was very pleasant. Looking at it, one could not help but want to drink a few mouthfuls and taste the sweetness of the lake water. There were large patches of trees around the lake. Looking around, there was a patch of green everywhere. It was full of life. Looking at it gave one an inexplicable sense of comfort. In the middle of the lake, there were some islands of varying sizes. Some were barren and incomparably desolate, with nothing at all. Some were shaded by green trees, with beautiful mountains and clear waters, and were filled with spirit chi. It was a rare cultivation treasure land. The small ones were only a few 100 meters in size. The big ones were hundreds of miles in size, and even thousands of miles in size. One could see them all. However, this was only a lake after all, not a sea. There were not many islands, but they decorated the smoky wave lake, giving the entire lake a different kind of charm. It was like a little green in 1,000 red dots. It had a kind of shocking beauty. In the sky, a huge white cloud drifted quickly from afar. It was extremely fast, as if there was a huge gust of wind pushing it from behind. Not long after, it came to the sky above the smoky wave lake. Its drifting footsteps suddenly stopped, and it stopped moving in midair. Below, one could clearly see a large number of living beings shuttling back and forth. Most of them were rushing to the largest island in the lake. These people who were hurrying back and forth were all from the demon clan. Moreover, they all looked very strange. To say that they were strange was naturally the demon clan who walked around with their original appearance. It was disdainful to say that they were all demons who had undergone the demon awakening technique. There were also various kinds of birds and beasts. They were either stirring up demonic winds or flapping their wings, soaring high in the sky. Although they still had their original appearance, their cultivation levels were not low. Almost all of them were monsters at the level of monsters. They had not gone through the transformation monster tribulation, but their intelligence was not below that of humans. Then, there were the transformed demons. They had the appearance of humans, but the demonic aura emitted from their bodies fully revealed their identity. For these demons who had transformed into demons, regardless of whether they were in their original form or in their true form, as long as they saw them, they would show a respectful expression and make way for them. Demons who had transformed into human form were the rarest of the races. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were the mainstay of the demon race. They were the foundation that supported the existence of the demon race. All the demons headed to the center of the smoky wave lake. Medusa, we're here. This is the smoky wave lake. Di Shitian stood at the bow of the boat and glanced around. He took a deep breath. The freshness mixed with the water vapor immediately swept away the fatigue in his body in an instant. His whole person became much more energetic, and his eyes were full of spirit. He said, "The waves give rise to smoke, and the clouds decorate the lake. This smoky wave lake is really a rare place. Just in terms of spiritual chi, it is several times more abundant than our southern barbarian lands." A sigh came from his mouth. Looking at the lake, it was really beautiful. Not to mention the fresh water vapor, the scenery was even more pleasant. If he lived here, it would really be a celestial life. Looking at the direction that so many demons are heading, the smoky wave island should be in the center. Let's go there together. Medusa casually walked out of the floating cloud boat and landed on the surface of the clear lake. Her feet didn't touch the water, but a wave suddenly rushed out from the bottom of the lake and appeared under her feet. She was naturally supported on the surface of the water and moved along with the flow of the waves as she moved forward. When Di Shitian saw this, a strange light flashed in his eyes. He knew that this ability to control water was her innate ability. Her original form was that of a snake. When a snake entered the water, it was like a fish in water. As for controlling the waves, it was something that she naturally knew. She did not need anyone to teach her. It was the innate ability of the water clan. If other demons wanted to learn, they would have to put in a lot of effort to cultivate. It was impossible to be envious. Xiao Chen waved his hand and put away the floating cloud ship. With a thought, a demonic wind naturally appeared in his body. He stood on the demonic wind and walked side by side with Medusa. The moment they appeared, the many fiend race cultivators in the surroundings immediately revealed respectful expressions. The fiend race cultivators in front also moved to the side, opening up a path for them. There were tens of thousands of demons heading to Misty Wave Island. However, there were very few demons who could transform and condense an inner core. They could be counted on one's fingers. Every one of them was an extraordinary figure. Seeing Di Shitian and Medusa, one riding the wave and the other riding the wind, floating forward, many demons behind them immediately began to talk about it. Another two experts who condensed an inner core. It's only during the opening of the heavenly demon mystery realm. In normal times, such figures may not be seen even in hundreds or thousands of years. It seems that there will be many experts who have condensed an inner core on the Smoky Wave Island this time. It would be great if we could see the 8 great demon kings of our demon clan. Yes, I heard along the way that many demon brothers have specially rushed here from afar. Moreover, each of them has the strength of a demonic beast. In total, there are probably tens of thousands of them. Even the 8 great demon kings will appear. This is a rare opportunity that may not come by even in 1,000 years. I heard that the rock demon king of the 8 great demon kings has an extremely high cultivation base. He has already reached the 4th transformation realm. Not long ago, he broke into a cultivation sect called the Ascension sect and swallowed thousands of cultivators in one gulp. Then, he spat out a golden flame and burned the entire mountain to ashes. He is really a demon. I don't know if we can see him on the island. That's nothing. I heard that the Tree King, all kinds of things about the demon clan were mentioned by the demons. If one listened carefully, it was not difficult to learn about the recent situation of the demon clan. It was no wonder that none of the demons who came this time had a cultivation base lower than that of a demonic beast. In the current world, demonic beasts were the mainstream strength of the demon clan. What they knew was naturally not to be underestimated. Of course, this had nothing to do with Di Shitian. Riding the demonic wind and drifting with the current, it didn't take long for them to see a huge island on the Misty Wave Lake. The island was so big that it had a radius of several thousand miles. It was like a small continent. It could even form a small kingdom on it. The island was covered with trees and towering mountains. However, most of the land was flat. It was covered with lush green grass. On the grassland, many figures could be seen gathering there. All kinds of voices could be heard, and several towering houses could be seen. It looked very strange. This is the Smoky Wave Island. Di Shitian saw and understood. He knew that the island in front of him must be the Smoky Wave Island he was looking for. He exchanged a look with Medusa and said, although there's still some time before the secret realm opens, this is a rare gathering of the demon clan. Let's go up and take a look. Chen Shi also said that this time, many of our brothers in the demon clan will take out the things that they have accumulated over the years to exchange for what they need. Maybe we can find what we need inside. Let's go up together. Okay. Medusa did not object. This was one of the reasons why they came. Puff. Their bodies swayed slightly, and they landed on the island at the same time. As soon as they appeared, there were many demonic beasts and demons in their original forms in front of them. When they saw Di Shitian and Medusa, their expressions became more respectful. Immediately, there were shrimp soldiers in battle armor who came forward. He said respectfully, "Welcome to the Smoky Wave Island, seniors. I am here to receive you on the island under the orders of the Dragon King. Please go to the quiet room to rest." Dragon King? Di Shitian was surprised. Although he had heard from Chen Shi that there was the Dragon Clan in the Smoky Wave Lake, he did not expect to come into contact with the Dragon Clan's forces so soon. One had to know that among the subordinates of the Dragon Clan, there were 2 tribes that were the most famous. They were the Shrimp Soldiers and Crab Generals. There was no other reason. These 2 tribes had a large population and multiplied faster. They were the best tribes to be subordinates. Since the Dragon King is so polite, please lead the way. Di Shitian nodded indifferently. There was no expression on his face, so no one could figure out what he was thinking. At the same time, his body naturally exuded the aura of a superior. This made the shrimp soldier's heart skip a beat. He quickly led the way in front. Along the way, he asked. He also knew that the Dragon Clan really lived in the Smoky Wave Lake and occupied the Smoky Wave Lake. This time, the Heavenly Demon secret realm opened again, and one of the entrances was on the Smoky Wave Island. This was a grand event that happened once in thousands of years. Strictly speaking, the Dragon Clan and the Demon Clan were of the same origin. Naturally, they would not stop this matter. Instead, they had sent a large number of subordinates. First, they built a few inns on the island. Naturally, ordinary Demon Clan members were not qualified to stay in these inns. They served the experts of the Demon Clan who had transformed into human form. This allowed them to have a place to stay temporarily. They were obviously different from ordinary Demon Clan members. They did not have to eat and drink on the island. This was also a kind of goodwill that the Dragon Clan expressed to the Demon Clan. Along the way, they entered the inn and arranged 2 quiet rooms for Di Shitian and Medusa. After settling them down, the shrimp soldier also left. In the quiet room, Di Shitian pushed open the window and looked at the many Demon Clan members outside. He had a thoughtful look on his face. Along the way, he roughly estimated that the number of Demon Clan members on the island was probably no less than tens of thousands. Moreover, he could also see a large number of Demon Clan members from the Water Clan. They were mixed among the Demon Clan members. There were shrimp soldiers and crab generals stationed in many places to maintain order on the island and prevent fighting and killing. Moreover, many Demon Clan members directly sat on the ground and spread out a large beast skin in front of them. There were all kinds of items on it, including all kinds of materials for refining weapons, spirit ores, and even many strange spiritual herbs. There were a lot of them. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 273. With a glance, one could see the spiritual treasures and spiritual herbs emitting bursts of light, as well as the abundant spiritual chi. There were also all kinds of magic tools, magic treasures, and even elixirs. It was a dazzling sight. There were so many that one couldn't help but want to stay in it. It seems that the opening of the secret territory is indeed a large gathering of the Demon Clan. Many Demon Clans have taken out the treasures that they have accumulated for thousands of years to exchange for needed items. There is still some time before the opening of the secret territory. I can take advantage of this opportunity to collect more needed items. Di Shitian's mind quickly turned. The Demon Clan now lived in the deep mountains and forests. On the purple gold mainland, there were all kinds of mountain ranges. It could be said that there were countless mountains. Even the most powerful cultivators did not know how big the mainland was. Many mountain ranges were places where ordinary cultivators would not go. However, most of the Demon Clans lived in these mountain ranges. After thousands of years, it was impossible for the powerful Demon Clans to not have accumulated some resources in the mountain ranges. For example, if there was some kind of spirit mine in the mountain ranges, after thousands of years, there would be a huge amount of spirit mine. Or there was some kind of spiritual quenching in the mountains. If carefully cared for, it would be an extremely precious treasure after thousands of years. If taken out for alchemy, it would be a good material. These were all treasures. Moreover, there were many things that were difficult to use. It was just right to exchange for something useful at such a big gathering. There were also many treasures that they did not understand and did not understand the specific use of. Perhaps, these strange things were some kind of priceless treasure. After hearing that there was such a gathering, Di Shitian had been secretly looking forward to it. He was not too worried about those refining materials. After all, he was not short of magic weapons now. First, there was the 7 Sins demonic zither, and then there was the Tiger Soul divine weapon. As the saying goes, the number of treasures did not matter, as long as it was suitable and enough. But he had a great interest in all kinds of spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. Previously, he had the opportunity to obtain the wine god's treasure book left behind by the wine god. There were many kinds of spiritual wines recorded in it. Each one had an incomparably magical effect, comparable to elixirs, and even better. He had been longing for it for a long time. But the materials needed to brew spiritual wine were not the 5 grains of the secular world, but all kinds of spiritual treasures of heaven and earth and rare spiritual fruits. Under normal circumstances, even brewing a type of spirit wine would be an abnormally difficult task. Collecting all kinds of spiritual medicines, who knew how much energy it would take? But it was different now. At the gathering, it could be said that the demon clan from all parts of the mainland had all gathered on Yangbo Island. Many of the rarely seen treasures could be found here. It was a great opportunity to exchange for all kinds of spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. If he did not seize it, he would be a fool. Fortunately, as soon as I heard that there was such a gathering, I went back to the valley and plundered the thousands of gourds of monkey wine that Yuan Tian had just brewed. It should not be difficult to exchange spiritual wine for all kinds of spiritual treasures of heaven and earth. Di Shitian looked around and saw a large number of demon clans setting up stalls. In front of the stalls, there was an endless stream of figures, all of them wandering around, hoping to find the items they needed. The fragrance emitted by the many spiritual essences of heaven and earth also made him restless. He secretly said, "Later I will also set up a secondary stall. Maybe, after this trip to the secret realm, I can build my herb garden." In his heart, he had already had a complete plan for future development. Part of the plan was to build a herb garden. After all, he was very clear that spiritual treasures of heaven and earth were actually grown by heaven and earth. Every time they matured, it would take a lot of time. Many precious medicinal herbs would take thousands of years to mature. Most of these medicinal herbs were rare and could be counted on one's fingers. If they were used up today, what would they do next time? Therefore, the most important thing was to know how to cultivate and recuperate. When taking spiritual medicines, at least leave the seeds or seedlings to cultivate, so that the spiritual treasures of heaven and earth would not be cut off. Small streams flowed for a long time, so that they would be inexhaustible. Knowing this, naturally, he would not do something that would cut off his future path. The more precious the spiritual treasures were, the more he wanted to grow more of them. This time, not only did he intend to collect spiritual treasures, he also wanted to collect various spiritual seeds of spiritual treasures and plant them. He secretly made a plan in his heart. He did not think too much. Sizing up the quiet room, he saw that it was indeed quite quiet. There was nothing superfluous. There was only a bed, a futon, and a table. There was nothing else. It was really just a place for them to rest and recuperate. Whoosh! He sat down on the praying mat and began to circulate his demonic origin energy. Strands of demonic origin energy shot out from the rank 3 Black Lotus and into the demonic vein. The demonic origin energy flowed through the demonic vein and nourished his demonic body. Right now, he could only circulate his demonic origin energy through 3 demonic veins. Every time he circulated his demonic origin energy, he would feel extremely comfortable. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was immediately guided by the cultivation method. It cheerfully flowed through the countless pores on his body and quickly entered his body. It entered the demon vein and circulated along with the demon essence. Every time it circulated, it entered the demon refining cauldron in the demon mansion and was refined into the purest demon essence. Finally, it fell into the Black Lotus. It made the light on the Black Lotus seem even more lively. At the same time, there was a large amount of desire energy that was absorbed into his body through the demon vein and into the Black Lotus. Unknowingly, the wisps of black gas wrapped around his body and completely covered him inside. Outside, he could not be seen at all. It was very strange. In the black gas, there was also a strange and evil aura. It was as if it could devour people at any time. This was the strangeness and horror of the desire energy. Several hours passed. In the afternoon, Di Shitian opened his eyes in the black gas. His eyes shone brightly. He opened his mouth and took a deep breath. The black gas around him was immediately swallowed into his stomach like a whale sucking in water. Not a single drop was left. At this moment, his spirit had completely reached its peak. The light in his eyes was also instantly withdrawn, returning to normal. However, the vicissitudes and indifference in his eyes could not be removed. It's time to go out and do business. He suddenly got up and left the quiet room. Looking at Medusa, he found that she was no longer in the quiet room. Looking at the situation, there was an 80 to 90% chance that she had gone to the gathering outside. Raising an eyebrow, he did not hesitate and immediately left the inn. When they walked outside, they immediately heard a lot of conversations. "Brother, look, this is the 1,000-year-old gloomy sand that I found in the quicksand river after a few hundred years. I won't trade for ordinary things. Do you have 1,000-year-old agarwood? I have 10,000-year-old warm jade. I want to trade. Brother, come and take a look at the elixirs I have here. These are my thousands of years of stock." All kinds of trading sounds were heard. It could be seen that the Misty Wave Island was extraordinarily lively now. Most of the people were exchanging various kinds of goods. In front of each stall, there were many brothers of the demon clan. Although the demon clan had cultivated for thousands of years, their minds were not as complicated as that of humans. When trading, there was not so much scheming and scheming. If they succeeded, they would succeed. If they failed, so be it. Moreover, there were subordinates sent by the Misty Wave Dragon clan to maintain order on the island. Therefore, although it was extraordinarily lively, there were no disputes. Many of the demon clan members who saw their own kind chatted enthusiastically. There was a lively scene everywhere. It was indeed a big gathering of the demon clan. Instead of looking for it myself, why don't I wait for it and let others find it for me? I don't have to worry about not being able to sell my monkey spirit wine here. Di Shitian walked around and found that there were probably no less than thousands of stalls set up here. If he were to walk around one by one, he might not be able to see all of them even after a day. This would also be quite time-consuming. It was really not a wise choice. After walking around a few times, he found a big tree in a remote place on the Misty Wave Island. Leaning against the tree, he took out a futon under the tree and sat down. Then, he took out a piece of cloth from his storage bag and spread it on the ground. Then, he took out gourds that were slightly glowing from the bag. There were more than 100 of them. These gourds were actually formed from ordinary gourd vines. However, because they were filled with spiritual wine, the spiritual chi in the wine seeped into the gourds, causing the gourds to also have traces of spiritual chi. They revealed a trace of treasure light. They were not Dharma artifacts, let alone Dharma treasures. They were just gourds used to store wine. In each of these gourds, there were 2 kilograms of monkey spirit wine. Every sip of this wine was equivalent to several months of bitter cultivation. After refining, the essence produced was incomparably pure. It was comparable to the various medicinal pills taken by core formation cultivators in the cultivation world. It was effective for all levels of the demon clan. It was delicious. This kind of spiritual wine was more precious than medicinal pills. A single gourd was enough to be called a treasure. If one drank all of them, it would not be a problem to increase one's cultivation by 10 years. After taking out these wine gourds, Di Shitian pondered and poured out a pile of jade stones from his storage bag. He condensed them with his demonic essence into a jade tablet and engraved a paragraph of demonic text on it. It meant, monkey spirit wine, after consumption, can increase one's cultivation by a lot and heal injuries. In exchange for all kinds of spiritual essences. Rare treasures. The demonic text was the language of the demon clan. As long as one was a demon, even if one did not recognize it, as long as one took a look, one would naturally understand the meaning expressed. It could be said to be extremely convenient. When he was in the 100 Flowers Valley, Di Shitian learned it. After all, he was a demon. How could he not understand the language of the demon clan? Bang! As soon as the jade tablet was done, he threw it directly. The jade tablet landed in front of him with a jade light. Under Di Shitian's deliberate efforts, When the tablet landed on the ground, it made a loud sound and burst out with a strong jade light. It was really extraordinary. On the spot, all the nearby demons turned their gazes over. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 274. There were tricks to doing business. First of all, one had to be attractive enough. One had to have a bright facade and have the means to attract customers' attention at first sight. Otherwise, if one stayed in a corner and looked shabby, there would be no distinguishing features and no taste. No one would stop their eyes on you for even a moment. Di Shitian knew this very well. Therefore, although the place he chose was not a crowded area and he sat down against a tree, he immediately refined a jade tablet. When the jade tablet was refined, he used his demonic essence to activate its own jade light. The jade light was bright and burst out. Naturally, it could be said to be unique on Misty Wave Island. It caused a huge commotion. It attracted the attention of a large number of demons on the spot. This was a small means to attract others' attention. Of course, it was not enough. In this way, it would not be a problem to attract a group of demons. However, if there was no good stuff, it would just be a farce to please the crowd. In the blink of an eye, the crowd would disperse. At this time, what was needed was something that could attract the other party to stay. Di Shitian had full confidence in the monkey spirit wine. In this world, there had always been very few people who knew how to brew spirit wine. Moreover, monkey spirit wine was a spirit wine that only monkeys knew how to brew, so it was even rarer. Although the batch in front of him was newly brewed, it contained an unusually large amount of essence. It was the top-grade monkey spirit wine. Moreover, there were 10-year-old, century-old, and even 1,000-year-old spirit wine in the God of Wine gourd. It was a treasure among treasures. As long as he saw something good, he could take it out to exchange. How could he not have the confidence to attract customers with such a treasure? Sure enough, the jade light soared into the sky. Many of the nearby demons gathered towards Di Shitian's side. The first to arrive was a demon with a bull's head and a middle-stage demonic beast cultivation. He looked up and glanced at the pile of gourds placed in front of Di Shitian, then fell on the jade tablet. Immediately, the information on the jade tablet was transmitted to his mind. Wine in exchange for spiritual essence. Is this spiritual wine? It's the rarest monkey spirit wine. Selling spiritual wine? Is it true? Spiritual wine is more precious than elixirs. I've only heard of it before, but have never seen it. There's spirit wine for sale. Everyone, come over quickly. For a time, all kinds of cries of surprise rang out one after another, calling out to their close friends one after another. The spirit wine was really too rare, and it wasn't a systematic method like alchemy. It could be said to be the rarest. Not only did it have the effects of alchemy, it was also a rare delicacy. When Di Shitian saw this, he smiled indifferently in his heart. He reached out and picked up a gourd in front of him. He gently opened the mouth of the gourd. Immediately, bursts of rich wine fragrance wafted out of the gourd and drifted in all directions. A strange fragrance wafted into the air, entering the nostrils of the surrounding demonic beasts. After inhaling deeply, their eyes immediately lit up. The aroma of this wine is too strong. It's so comfortable to smell it. Just one breath and all my fatigue is swept away. This was spirit wine. This was definitely spirit wine. Only spirit wine has such a miraculous power. It smells really good. Just smelling it makes us feel refreshed. If we were to take a sip, we would definitely be in a good mood. That's a pretty good taste. Monkey wine, a spirit wine brewed by monkeys. There's no mistake, this is the smell. The aroma emitted by mortal wine and spirit wine was completely different. The aroma emitted by mortal wine was intoxicating, while the mellow aroma emitted by spirit wine was not only intoxicating, but it could also refresh the mind and increase one's spirit by several times. It had indescribable benefits. There were countless miraculous effects. One could easily tell whether it was mortal wine or spirit wine by just smelling it. Is there a need to doubt it? Look, this wine was brought out by the demonic beast king. How could it be fake? An old fox with a fox head on his head looked at Di Shitian and immediately said respectfully, "Junior Hushan greets the demonic beast king. May I know how senior demonic beast king would like to exchange for this spirit wine?" Di Shitian's appearance was that of condensing an inner core. This appearance was the best guarantee. How could an expert who had condensed an inner core cheat on such matters? Spiritual essence of heaven and earth and all kinds of rare treasures can be exchanged for spirit wine according to their value. No spirit stones accepted. Sakura said in a deep voice. Everything that was traded here could be said to be precious items that were accumulated through untold hardships. It was impossible to measure them with spirit stones. Anything that could be bought with spirit stones wouldn't be treasures. They belonged to the ordinary category. Here, all the demonic beasts traded with each other. Most of them exchanged for items that they wanted. Of course, these items belonged to the precious category. Spiritual essence of heaven and earth. Hushan's eyes turned and he patted the storage bag at his waist. Suddenly, a spiritual light flashed and a jade box appeared in his hand. The jade box had a gentle color and looked very comfortable. It was made of high-quality jade. He carefully opened the jade box. A strange fragrance wafted out from the box and immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding demons. When the jade box was fully opened, they saw that in the box, there was a spiritual grass that still had its roots and was still very fresh. This spiritual herb had 3 segments. At the joint of each segment, there were 3 orchid-like leaves. There were a total of 9 leaves in the spiritual herb. Strangely, these leaves were not like ordinary leaves. They appeared for a while and then suddenly turned illusory. It looked very strange. This is a spiritual herb that I waited for to mature for more than 300 years on the mountain. It's called the illusory spirit herb. There are 9 leaves here. When you are in danger, pluck one leaf and put it in your mouth. It will make your body turn illusory in an instant. Not only can it make you invisible, even if something rushes over, it will pass through like air. It won't be affected at all. No Dharma treasure or Dharma spell can hurt you. Hushan introduced the spiritual herb in his hand carefully. According to his description, this illusory spirit herb was really amazing. It was definitely a good treasure to save one's life in times of danger. What a good spiritual essence, many demonic beasts exclaimed in unison. They looked at the illusory spirit herb with burning eyes. There were 9 leaves. 1 leaf at a time, which meant that it could be used 9 times. It could save one's life 9 times. It was not an ordinary item. It had to be said that the demonic beasts who came to Misty Wave Island this time were all good stuff. I wonder if this illusory spirit herb can be exchanged for this monkey wine. Hushan looked at Di Shitian cautiously. Di Shitian was already overjoyed when Hushan introduced it. He thought to himself that he had made a good start this time. However, he did not show it on his face. When doing business, the most taboo thing was to show one's face. If he showed an expression of desire, the other party would most likely estimate the price. Something that could be bought with 10 yuan might not be bought with 100 yuan. Therefore, there was no other expression on his face. He just nodded slightly and said, "Yes. How many gourds of spiritual wine do you want to exchange for?" Each gourd of spiritual wine here can increase one's cultivation by at least 10 to 20 years. It can also heal injuries, restore demonic chi, and so on. There won't be any hidden dangers. This. Hushan's eyes lit up. Spiritual wine was very rare in this world. Drinking it could increase one's cultivation and had many other magical effects. It was definitely a rare treasure. Therefore, he was not sure how much he wanted to exchange. After thinking for a while, he said hesitantly, "Senior, I want to exchange for 30 gourds, no, 20 gourds will do." Hushan was a fox. Foxes had always been known for their cunning and shrewdness. However, he had never been to the human world and did not have a cunning mentality. How would he know the market? Ha ha! Di Shitian heard this and could not help but smile. He did not want to be a black-hearted businessman. He gave Hushan the biggest number and said, "Since you want 30 gourds, we'll do it at 30 gourds. The goods are sold. You can keep them." After that, he waved his hand and picked out 30 gourds from the pile in front of him. He placed them in front of Hushan and took the jade box with the illusory spirit herb. The goods were sold. A deal was completed on the spot. When Hushan heard this, he was overjoyed. He hurriedly put the 30 gourds of spiritual wine into his bag of holding and left happily. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. Nowadays, spiritual wine was the rarest item in the world. It was rare to see such a thing, so it was only natural that the other demonic beasts would value it. Therefore, no one thought that there was anything wrong with exchanging 30 gourds of spiritual wine for illusory spirit herb. They all looked on enviously as Hushan left. Spiritual wine was not something that just anyone could taste. "Senior, I have a dragon fruit." "What's a dragon fruit?" "What I have is a treasure. This is an immortal peach sapling." "And an immortal peach." "Senior, look at my ghostface peach tree. I have a jadeite fruit." "What jadeite fruit?" "I have a bloodbody tree. I even brought a bloodbody vine." Seeing that Hushan really used the spiritual essence to exchange for 30 gourds of monkey wine, the scene immediately exploded. Thinking about it, this was a gathering that only happened once in thousands of years. Many of the demon race had already prepared for this gathering. It should be known that the demon race had an extraordinary perception of all kinds of spiritual essences of heaven and earth. Most of the time, they were the guardian spirit beasts of these spirit herbs. They were waiting for the spirit herbs to mature. Every demonic beast had accumulated quite a few precious spirit herbs. Their thirst for spirit wine caused them to immediately take out the various spirit herbs they had. Ordinary spirit herbs could only be exchanged for a small amount of spirit wine, but precious spirit herbs could be exchanged for a lot more. Each precious spirit herb could be exchanged for dozens or even hundreds of gourds worth of spirit wine. This was an exchange of goods. As long as both parties were satisfied with each other, they wouldn't care too much about who was more precious and who was cheaper. As long as both parties were happy, it was fine. Once the goods were exchanged, everyone was happy. For a moment, the scene was extremely heated. The spirit wine that Di Shetien had brought was exchanged for in large quantities. Many of the demonic beasts who liked to drink immediately drank a few mouthfuls of the wine, then hugged the gourds tightly as they walked out. This caused many of the demonic beasts to want more. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 275. They wanted nothing more than to be able to taste this legendary and precious spiritual wine immediately. Regarding this, they were not stingy with their personal belongings and took out the most precious spiritual items they had on them. In a short period of time, it could be said that Sakra was dazzled. There were all kinds of spiritual items that he had seen before, never seen before, heard of, and never heard of. They appeared one after another in front of him, which really made him feel overwhelmed. Spirit items that he had been looking for but could not find in the past suddenly appeared in front of him one by one. The fire dragon fruit, and even the fruit tree that grew the fire dragon fruit, the blood body, was said to be a drop of blood from the Chilean's heart. After the evolution of heaven and earth, the ghost-faced peach was born. This peach tree could be said to be a strange tree. This peach tree was an object of extreme yin and could only be born in a place of extreme yin. After it bloomed and bore fruit, the fruit would not look like an ordinary peach, but a human face. The peach was also called the ghost-faced peach. The ghost-faced peach was said to be able to subdue ghosts. Ghosts would not dare to approach where it grew. Once they got close, they would be swallowed by the peach. Moreover, the ghost-faced peach was also a fruit that could be eaten. After eating it, the mysterious yin energy in one's body would increase greatly, and one would be able to form the yin-yang eye and see ghosts. Di Shetien remembered that in the wine god's treasure mirror, there was a spirit wine that was brewed from the ghost-faced peach. It seemed to be called the underworld wine. It seemed that only ghosts in the underworld could drink it. Drinking it could help them cultivate. There were many benefits. Although it was called the underworld wine, it was a spirit wine for the beings in the underworld to drink. Of course, other races could drink it too, but the effects would not be as obvious as when ghosts drank it. Di Shitian did not refuse any of the various spirit items. As long as it was a spirit item, he would take it all and exchange it for some spirit wine. Unknowingly, an entire afternoon had passed by quietly. More than half of the thousands of gourds of spirit wine that he had prepared were exchanged. Apart from the wine in the wine god's gourd, there were less than 1,000 gourds of spirit wine left. After that wave passed, the number of demonic beasts that came to exchange for spirit wine slowly decreased. However, there was never a lack of demons in front of the stall. This wine fragrance is mellow and pleasant. It dissipates but doesn't disperse. It's thick but doesn't fade. When it enters the nose, it makes the qi and blood in the body become incomparably lively. It is indeed a rare spirit wine. Just as Di Shitian sent the previous demon away and was about to put the 4-leaf Ganoderma that he had just exchanged for into his storage bag, a slightly intoxicated voice rang out beside him. Looking in the direction of the voice, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Standing in front of him was actually a demon who had condensed an inner core. After the opponent transformed, he was a man in his 30s with a head of silver-white hair. This person was also wearing silver-white clothes. He was tall and slender and looked very handsome. He was much better looking than Di Shitian. If he was a woman, he would at least be a beauty that could cause the downfall of a country. On his face, he took a deep breath and smelled the wine fragrance coming from the gourd. He revealed an intoxicated expression as if he was already intoxicated by the wonderful wine fragrance of the spirit wine. From the looks of it, he was a fellow who loved wine. After a long time, he recovered from his intoxication. His eyes fell on the wine gourd and revealed a look of longing. He then looked at Di Shitian and his lips curved into an arc. He said with a smile, "I, Silver Hair, have been in human form for thousands of years. I have tasted all kinds of good wine in the human world. However, all wine is after all mortal wine. There is no way it can be compared to spirit wine. Unfortunately, spirit wine is a rare thing in the entire continent. Up until now, I have only tasted it 2 or 3 times. I didn't expect to see a demon brother here taking out spirit wine to exchange for spirit wine. It's the legendary monkey wine. It's really a surprise." This silver-haired man had an easygoing face and didn't have the slightest pressure on him. He seemed very friendly and easy to become friends with. "My brothers in the demon clan call me Silver Hair. How should I address you?" Silver Hair asked Di Shitian casually. Di Shitian. Di Shitian? Haha, that's a good name. It's very imposing. It suits your clan very well. Hearing this, Silver Hair pondered for a moment and nodded at him. His eyes involuntarily looked at those gourds again. His Adam's apple squirmed and made a gulping sound. He reluctantly moved his eyes away and said, "Originally, I just wanted to walk around casually. I didn't expect to see spirit wine on sale. I didn't bring the spirit essence I got last time. I don't know if Brother Di will go to the treasure exchange convention in 9 days. If you do, I'll exchange some wine with you." As he said this, his face revealed a look of pity. It seemed that he didn't have anything suitable to exchange for the wine. Di Shitian looked at Silver Hair up and down. He didn't underestimate him at all. He felt that there was a layer of fog shrouding the person in front of him. He couldn't tell what level his cultivation had reached, but he was sure that his cultivation was definitely above his own. He was an expert of the demon clan. He thought to himself, could he be one of the 8 great demon kings of the demon clan? It was just a thought. Di Shitian wasn't a stingy person. Silver Hair was obviously a powerful demon king. He didn't want to make friends with him. He reached out and grabbed a gourd in front of him. He threw it to Silver Hair without hesitation and said, "It's just wine. I don't have anything else, but I don't lack spirit wine. What can you exchange for it? This wine is my treat. If it's not enough, come and get it." It was just a gourd of spirit wine. If he could make friends with an expert of the demon clan. That was just a small matter. It was insignificant. Silver Hair reached out and took the gourd. He opened it and smelled it with intoxication. He poured a mouthful into his mouth and let the wine swirl in his mouth. After a long time, he swallowed it and sighed deeply. It's really a rare good wine. Ordinary wine can't compare to it. However, I accept this gourd. If you want more, I'll exchange it with spirit essence. Di Shitian, I'll remember you. I hope to see you at the Treasure Exchange Convention in 9 days. After that, he smiled faintly and waved his long sleeves. He took the gourd and turned to leave without any reluctance. He had the grace of not taking anything with him. He left in a carefree manner. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared among the demons. No one knew where he went. The Treasure Exchange Convention in 9 days? Di Shitian saw this and secretly remembered this silver-haired man. He murmured, "It seems that there's a lot of good stuff at the Treasure Exchange Convention." His mind spun quickly. In the blink of an eye, he figured out that if the free exchange on the island was a gathering open to all members of the demon clan, then there must be some kind of strict restriction to participate in the treasure trading convention. Or, it was very likely that this was a gathering specially held for demons who had condensed their inner cores. After all, every demon who had condensed their inner elixirs were extraordinary. If they lacked something, it would be very difficult to find it at an ordinary gathering. If they wanted to exchange for something, they could only exchange it with a demon expert of the same level. Moreover, some rare treasures would definitely be taken out at the Treasure Exchange Convention. The word treasure was enough to show that the items taken out at that time were definitely worthy of being called treasures. If that's the case, I must attend the Treasure Exchange Convention. Di Shitian thought for a while and said, "If it's as I guessed, then it won't be long before someone specifically notifies me. 9 days, there's still 9 days. I don't need to be in a hurry. I'll set up a wine stall at the big gathering for a few days first." He did not think too much about it. As long as there were spirit essences, it was the same everywhere. Anyway, the Treasure Exchange Convention was in 9 days. There was no need to be too anxious now. It was a good time to collect spirit essences. As for the rest, he could think about it later. "Hey, brother." Suddenly, just as Di Shitian was thinking to himself, a call suddenly sounded in his ears and woke him up. He hurriedly looked up and his eyes lit up. He saw a beautiful woman in her 20s standing in front of him. She was dressed in a silk dress that outlined her beautiful figure. The loose robe could not cover her chest at all. She waved her long sleeves and a burst of fragrance wafted into his nose. It was exceptionally pleasant. No matter where she was, this woman could not escape the title of beautiful. However, her current actions had transformed her beauty into a different kind of temperament. With one hand on her waist and the other pointing at Di Shitian, she looked like a delinquent girl. "I heard that your spirit wine is very good. It's a rare treasure. I also want to drink it. Let's make a bet. If I win, all the spirit wine here will be mine. I'll bring it back for my father to taste." The woman said in a sweet voice, "No matter what it is, I'll bet it." "Bet?" Di Shitian's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. He carefully looked at her body and vaguely felt that there was a strange aura on her body that had a strange pressure on the surroundings. This pressure was naturally emitted and was not deliberate. Her cultivation was the same as the silver hair. He could not see through it at all. However, there was still an inexplicable feeling in his heart. Such a beautiful woman actually appeared in front of him inexplicably and said that she wanted to bet. This was a strange thing that he had never encountered before. He looked indifferent and shook his head. "I'm sorry, I won't bet with you. If you want spirit wine, you can exchange it with spirit essences." "No." The woman frowned and decisively refused. She said, "In life, the greatest joy is gambling. Gambling is so interesting. It determines the winner and the loser. Whatever you want can be won by gambling. The joy of gambling is endless. Since I was born, I have won everything by gambling. I have never exchanged anything." To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.dfy.com. Chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 276. When it came to gambling, the woman was exultant and her words were clear and logical. Let's take your spirit wine as an example. I like it, and I want it. Let's make a bet. As long as you win, the spirit wine will immediately be mine. I don't need to take out anything to get what I want. That kind of fun is really wonderful. The woman said in all seriousness, so, you must make a bet with me today. Otherwise. As she said that, a sly look appeared on her face. Otherwise what? Di frowned slightly and muttered in his heart, why did I meet such a good person? If not for her unfathomable strength, he would have turned and left long ago. Otherwise, I will keep pestering you until you bet with me, the woman said proudly. If I, Ao Ching, want to bet with someone, even if I have to run to the ends of the earth, he must bet with me once. Oh, I know. As she said that, a look of realization appeared on her face. She said confidently, so you are worried that I don't have anything to bet with. Don't worry, I, Ao Ching, value gambling the most. Don't worry, I can take out whatever you want to bet. I am willing to bet on anything. As she said that, she untied the small colorful bag hanging on her waist and held it in her hand. She smiled and said, there are many treasures in my Chenkuan bag. Look carefully. As she said that, she kept taking things out of the bag. A string of pearls the size of a longan, without a trace of blemish. They even vaguely emitted traces of spiritual qi. It was a blood-red coral tree that was more than 3 meters tall, like a big tree. All kinds of magic treasures, spiritual essences, spiritual materials, and so on were taken out by her as if she was throwing rubbish. They were all suspended in mid-air. In almost the blink of an eye, countless rare treasures were piled up in front of her. Wow, this is the night luminescent pearl produced by the smoke wave lake. Look, it is said that if you eat it, you can come back to life. As Ao Ching took out the items one by one, a group of demons gathered around them. When they saw the treasures, they could not help but exclaim in surprise. Some of the more knowledgeable ones even cried out loudly. Any one of them was a rare treasure. With such a large amount of treasures being taken out from that bag, to be able to hold so many things, it was obviously not an ordinary storage bag. Instead, it was a top-grade storage bag, called a cosmos bag. There really was something else in the bag. If he wanted to, he could even fit a mountain into it. All kinds of spiritual materials couldn't help but cause Di Shitian's expression to change in an instant. Regardless of whether it was a spiritual item or a magic treasure, any one of them was a rare treasure. To be honest, it would be a lie to say that he was not tempted. However, when he heard the woman's name, his heart skipped a beat. Ao Ching. The surname Ao has always been the surname of the dragon clan. This place is full of monsters, and this is the territory of the Smoky Wave Dragon clan. Could it be that this woman is a legendary dragon? Although he wasn't sure, he was 70 to 80% sure. Apart from the dragon clan, who else could have such a strong cultivation? Guessing was guessing, but he never showed it on his face. You don't have to take any more. I said that I don't know how to gamble, and I won't gamble with you. With such a rich family background, any one of your items can be exchanged for spiritual wine from me. Why do you have to gamble? Di Shitian frowned and said calmly. He also felt a little strange in his heart. He didn't understand why an expert who had transcended the secular world would be addicted to secular gambling. It was really an anomaly. No, it has to be won by gambling for it to be meaningful. Only then will it be fun. Otherwise, it will be boring. Ao Ching curled her lips and shook her head repeatedly. With a happy face, she said, "Are you looking down on my chips? Let me tell you, I have a lot of good things. Here, look at the Shenlong's paradise map that I won from my uncle in the East Sea when I was 10 years old. This is a priceless treasure. See if you like it." As she spoke, she took out a rolled-up yellow scroll from her Chenkuan bag. Ao Ching seemed to have full confidence in the charm of the scroll. She held it in her hand confidently and shook it gently. The scroll immediately unfolded. As soon as it unfolded, The scene in the scroll immediately appeared. In the scroll, there was a small river, a small lake, and a courtyard built with purple bamboo. There was a bright sun and a bright moon hanging above. The ground was covered with colorful soil. It seemed that the scenery in the scroll was vivid and lifelike, as if it was real. At first glance, it revealed a kind of spiritual beauty and was inexplicably mysterious. When one continued to stare at it, one would almost have the illusion that one's mind was about to be sucked into the scroll. What exactly is this scroll? Why do I feel like the things in the scroll are real? What exactly is going on? After staring at the scroll for a while, an inexplicable suction force appeared in the scroll and was about to suck one's mind into it. Di Shitian immediately turned around and quickly calmed his mind, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. What is this scroll? Although he didn't want to know, Di Shitian still asked out of curiosity. Ao Qing heard that and knew that Di Shitian was curious. As long as one was curious, it would not be difficult to achieve one's goal. She couldn't wait for him to ask. After hearing that, she immediately said as if she was familiar with the scroll, "Let me tell you, this is not an ordinary scroll. It is called the Shunnong Wonderland Scroll. What you see in the scroll is not illusory, but real. This painting was an independent heavenly abode. The Wonderland is not large, only a radius of 3 miles. However, the soil inside is 5-colored soil, which is only lower than the 9 heavens living soil. It can be used to plant any kind of spiritual essence. The lake inside is formed by the 5 elements genuine water, and the river is the heavenly water. Each of them is a priceless treasure. Aren't you collecting spiritual essence? It is the most suitable place to plant them in the Shunnong Wonderland. I will use this as a bet. You should agree to bet with me now." Ao Qing was obviously very confident in the Shunnong Wonderland scroll in her hand. She had just seen Di Shitian collecting all kinds of spiritual essence. Since he liked spiritual essence, there was no reason not to be interested in a wonderland where spiritual essence could be planted. Indeed, she didn't guess wrongly. After hearing that all the things in this painting were actually real, Sakra's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of radiance. He was secretly surprised and bewildered. Could it be that this is really a priceless treasure that can form a paradise in a painting? I have never heard of this kind of method. If it's true, then if I really have such a heavenly abode in my hands, I can plant spirit herbs in it and have an inexhaustible supply of spirit herbs. However, he still asked, how can a wonderland be formed in a scroll? You don't know, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. As if to increase trust, Ao Qing said, my uncle said that this Shunnong Wonderland scroll was passed down from the ancient times. A peerless master turned the seed of the world tree into an independent wonderland. Then he found the 5 colors soil as the soil. He captured the heavenly water in the 9 heavens and turned it into a stream. He took the 5 elements essence crystal and turned it into a 5 elements lake. Then he took the essence of the sun and the essence of the moon and formed the sun and moon in it. Although it is a defective failure, it is also a priceless treasure. There are only a few of them in the world. Using the 5 colors soil as the soil, capturing the heavenly river in the 9 heavens, the 5 elements essence crystal to form the 5 elements lake, the essence of the sun and the essence of the moon, hearing this, with his cultivation, it was like fishing the moon from the bottom of the sea. Not only had he heard of it, but he also could not imagine what kind of peerless divine sense could do it. Failed product, defective product. If this was a defective product, what kind of situation would the real success be? For a moment, he could not help but yearn for it. How about it? Do you want to bet with me now? If you agree to bet, I will use this Shunnong Wonderland scroll as the wager. Ao Qing shook the scroll in her hand. She said in a delicate voice, bet. Di Shitian spat out a word without hesitation. His tone could be said to be unusually firm. It was as if he could cut through gold and iron. However, at the same time, he made another request. However, I will decide how to bet. He was very clear that he did not have much contact with gambling skills, whether in his previous life or this life. At most, he would play occasionally. In terms of gambling skills, even if there were 1,000 of him, it would be impossible to win against Ao Qing. If he wanted to bet and win, he had to find another shortcut. Good, straightforward. When Ao Ching saw Di Shitian agree, her eyes immediately lit up. She said without hesitation, "As long as you bet with me, I don't care how you bet. What I believe in is that anything in the world can be used to gamble. Gambling is omnipresent. How do you want to bet? Just tell me." She looked at Di Shitian excitedly. With a wave of her hand, except for the Shunnong Wonderland scroll in her hand, all the other things were put into her Chenkuan bag. "I bet that you can't find me on Misty Wave Island within an hour." The light in Sakra's eyes flickered and his mind started to spin rapidly. Almost in an instant, he found the most advantageous situation for himself and said calmly, "Give me the time of an incense stick to hide within the range of Misty Wave Island. If I walk out of Misty Wave Island, I lose. If I don't, and you can't find me within an hour, then I win. What do you think?" This gambling method could be said to be unusual. Di Shitian admitted that he was definitely not Ao Ching's opponent in a normal gambling method. "You hide, I will find you. On Misty Wave Island." When Ao Ching heard this, she was not surprised at all by this strange gambling method. Her eyes turned slightly and she said with a smile, "This is quite interesting. Well, let's bet according to what you said. I don't believe that I can't find you within an hour." She was also interested in this novel gambling method. She immediately agreed. After confirming the gambling method and the bet, Ao Ching's eyes turned and she took out a golden bowl from her Chenkuan bag. This bowl was called the Chenkuan bowl. She threw it on the island and immediately, the Chenkuan bowl turned upside down. Threads of golden light burst out from the bowl and completely covered the entire Misty Wave Island. This cover had no other meaning. It was just to set up a restriction around the island. At this moment, anyone who wanted to leave Misty Wave Island would be blocked. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 277. This way, they could ensure that no one could leave Misty Wave Island after the competition began. It was a foolproof move to ensure the fairness of the competition. Naturally, Ao Ching's actions were no match for the demon race experts on the island. Many of the demon race in human form who were meditating in the inns were startled awake. They casually asked around, and when they found out that there was a bet going on, they were all shocked and walked out of their quiet rooms, intending to see how the competition would play out. Interesting, really interesting. Princess Ao Ching of the Misty Wave Dragon Clan and Demon King Di Shitian of the Demon Clan who has condensed his inner core. I didn't expect to see something so interesting at this time. At this moment, on the only mountain peak on Misty Wave Island, there was a flat peak that looked like it had been cut out by someone with a knife. A silver-haired man was holding a wine gourd in one hand. He shook it gently and poured it into his mouth with unusual elegance. He savored it slowly. Beside him, there was actually a little girl dressed as a maidservant. She looked like she was carved from jade, and was only 8 or 9 years old. She was holding a simple and unadorned long sword in her hand, and stood respectfully behind the silver-haired man. She looked very cute, and at first glance, he could not help but like her. After she grew up, if nothing unexpected happened, she would definitely be a stunning beauty. Hearing the silver-haired man's words, the little girl could not help but ask in a childish voice, "Uncle, what's there to see?" "He's just a tiger who has condensed his inner core. Is much stronger than him. She's only 8 years old and has already condensed her inner core since birth. What's there to care about? Their gambling method is just hide and seek. How boring." As she spoke, a look of disdain appeared on her face, as if she looked down on this kind of game. "Haha, your birth is extraordinary. You were born with an innate talent and have already formed your inner core. You stand at a position that ordinary demon clan members may not be able to reach in their lifetime." The silver-haired man patted the head of the little girl called Yue dotingly. Yue also showed a look of enjoyment. "However, although your starting point is high, you absolutely cannot be arrogant. A high starting point is only a foundation. To be honest, Uncle wishes that you didn't have such a high starting point. I wish that you were like the other demons, starting from a spiritual beast and walking step by step to the core formation realm. The difficult path before the core formation realm is the stage that can test your willpower the most. Not only did one's cultivation reach a certain level, but one's willpower had also been tempered, which was hard to come by. It will allow you to have an unwavering will and not be afraid of any difficult test. Silver Hair said earnestly, remember my words. Any demon clan member who can cultivate from an ordinary beast or even a spirit beast to the core formation stage and the human form stage is a rare wonder. Every single one of them was a powerhouse who had gone through countless trials and tribulations. Their future achievements would be immeasurable. Because in the bottom of their hearts, each and every one of them had a perseverance that would never give up in the face of difficulties. But you haven't. When the girl heard this, she was a little unconvinced at first. However, in the blink of an eye, she fell into deep thought as if she had understood something. One was a wonder among demons who was born with an inner core, and the other was an ordinary demon who had climbed up step by step from the bottom. If they were at the same level and fought each other, the result would be thought-provoking. Silver Hair saw that the girl was deep in thought and knew that she had taken his words to heart. He couldn't help but nod his head in relief. Looking down the mountain, he said, do you think that this is just a simple game of hide-and-seek? In fact, it's not. Although it doesn't seem to be anything special, it's a test of each person's skills. Without a unique method, it would not be easy to hide on a small misty wave island and not let others find it. It's also extremely difficult to find the person you want to hide. The girl called blinked and looked down, as if she could see the scene at the foot of the mountain. At this moment, at the foot of the mountain, Di Shitian and Ao Qing's competition had already begun. After tidying up the stall, Di Shitian left the market without hesitation. With a thought, a demon wind rose from the ground and swept him into the dense forest on the island. He had 30 minutes to find a hiding place. Shenlong's Wonderland map, this treasure, is of great use to me. No matter what, I must win it. Entering the forest, Di Shitian looked around and showed a determined look. The Shenlong's Wonderland map might not be attractive to others, but it was different for him. The wonderland contained in the Shenlong's Wonderland map could give him great hope. Once the spiritual essence of heaven and earth was plucked out, even if it was placed in a jade box specially used to preserve the spiritual essence, it would still release its own power, not to mention growing it. That was an extremely difficult task. Out of 10 times, there might not even be one case of success. This was related to the environment and soil in which the spiritual essence grew. However, the 5-color soil in the Shenlong Wonderland was the most suitable soil for planting spiritual essence. Even if the spiritual essence was withered, it might be revived and rejuvenated when planted in it. Moreover, it could greatly accelerate the growth and maturity of the spiritual essence. If he had such a wonderland, then he might really be able to achieve his wish of brewing countless spiritual wines. With the support of endless spiritual essences, he could brew endless spiritual wines. With endless spiritual wines, he could develop his own forces at a high speed, not to mention his own cultivation. That would be unbelievably fast. He must get the Shenlong's Wonderland map. After knowing the magical effect of the map, Di Shitian's heart had never been so eager. That was why he agreed to the bet without hesitation. Of course, since he agreed, he had already thought of a way to benefit himself. The relationship between finding and hiding was very important. Di Shitian decided to hide by himself. Naturally, he was confident that he could hide from Ao Qing's search. This was not a game of hide-and-seek in the mortal world. The method of searching was not to search from place to place. One could use divine sense, magic treasures, or even spells. As long as one could find the hidden person, any method could be used. With Ao Qinglong's identity, she had countless magic treasures in her Qiankuan bag. Ordinary concealment methods would not be able to escape her search. Even if one knew the invisibility spell, she could still see through one's invisibility. Moreover, there were not many invisibility spells that could hide from her divine sense. In addition, there were some magic weapons that were specially used for searching, such as the demon-revealing mirror. No matter how deep one hid, one could not escape the fate of being found. Di Shitian naturally thought of this. He also had something to rely on. In the depths of the forest, he stopped and quickly scanned the surroundings. After searching with his demon sense, he did not find any divine sense. Then, a look of determination appeared on Di Shitian's face. He reached out and patted the storage bag. A jade box appeared in his hand. He opened the jade box. Immediately, a stalk of spiritual grass appeared in front of him with a strange fragrance. This spirit grass had 3 segments, and each segment had 3 faintly discernible green leaves that looked like orchids. It was the illusory spirit grass that he had obtained for the first time when he had set up his stall today with the spirit wine. The leaves of the illusory spiritual grass could make one's body invisible. It could make one's physical body completely disappear into the air for 15 minutes. During this time, one would be illusory. No matter what kind of attack, it would not be able to hurt him. It was really like nothingness. It did not exist. Whether I can win or not, it all depends on you. I hope you are as magical as the records say. Otherwise, I will really lose. Di Shitian looked at the illusory spiritual grass in his hand and took a deep breath. He reached out and gently plucked a green leaf. However, he did not eat it immediately. He had to eat it the moment before the incense's time was up. Only then could he make full use of it. He did not want to waste any time. The reason why he dared to bet with Ao Qing was because of this illusory spiritual grass. As time passed, the bet between Ao Qing and Di Shitian really alarmed all the demon clans on the island. Many of the demon clans knew Ao Qing's identity and would not play any tricks. They all watched the show. They wanted to see how the bet would develop. Brother, there is going to be a show. The Dragon Lady of the Dragon Palace is going to bet with the Demon King of the Demon Clan. That's a rare thing. I heard that the Dragon King gave birth to 3 daughters in the Dragon Palace of the Smoky Wave Lake. The first princess is Ao Qing. She was born with a gambling addiction. When she gambled, she would not feel bored even if she gambled for 3 days and 3 nights. Since the age of 5, she had won the entire Dragon Palace and no one was her opponent. At the age of 13, she had won against everyone in the world. I heard that she has never lost again. The second princess is the best at fighting. I heard that her cultivation is the highest. If she doesn't fight every day, she will feel uncomfortable all over. The third princess is terrible when she cries. Dark clouds roll in the sky and thunder rumbles. It can kill people. For a moment, the demon clans on the island were discussing. Some things could be said to be clear and logical. But time waits for no one. In the blink of an eye, the incense's time was up. When the time was up, Sakura didn't hesitate to swallow that piece of illusionary spirit leaf into his mouth. This leaf was also mystical as it melted the moment it entered his mouth, turning into a cool liquid that flowed into his stomach. On the spot, countless streams of cold air surged into every inch of his body. This, my feet, my hands. I can't see anything. It is indeed magical. After the cold air flowed into every inch of his flesh, Di Shitian's eyes scanned his entire body. He saw that his entire body, from top to bottom, had completely disappeared in an instant. He had turned into nothingness. The weight of his body seemed to have disappeared in an instant. He was like air, weightless. He could float with just a thought. Invisibility. This was not just invisibility. Invisibility was to hide one's body from the eyes of others so that they could not see it. However, one's body still existed. If one really touched it, one would still feel it. But now, he had truly turned into nothingness. There was no body, no existence. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 278. Invisibility. In the eyes of an ordinary person, the existence of a ghost could be said to be a form of concealment. However, if one opened the heaven's eye and transferred true yuan and demonic yuan to the eyes, Or even if one was born with yin-yang eyes, the ghost would not be able to hide and could be seen with a single glance. Therefore, the concealment technique was extremely limited in many situations. However, Di Shitian was not in the state of a ghost at all. Instead, his body and spirit had completely turned into nothingness at the same time. Apart from his own consciousness, he couldn't sense a single inch of his flesh and blood, not even himself. In this state, unless the world and the void were destroyed, there was no other way to force his body out. It was also Di Shitian's luck. The illusory spirit grass had always been very rare. Until now, it had not appeared for many years. The conditions for its birth were very harsh. Moreover, after it matured, if it was not picked, the illusory spirit grass would turn into nothingness and hide its traces. It would be even more difficult to find it. As long as it was given a certain amount of time, the illusory spirit grass would be like Chen Shi, giving birth to spiritual intelligence and transforming into a demon. Hu Shan, who took out the illusory spirit grass, was only guarding it. After hundreds of years, he vaguely knew some of its functions. He knew that it had the effect of invisibility and life-saving. However, he still did not realize its true value. It was no wonder that Hu Shan's original form was a fox, but he was a demon enlightened by the demon awakening technique. In terms of spiritual intelligence, he was born with some deficiencies. He could not completely reach the level of ordinary people. In addition, he had not experienced much in the boundless secular world. That was why he could exchange for such a rare grass at such a cheap price. This could only be attributed to Di Shitian's own luck. It could also be said that the demon clan, after all, lived deep in the mountains and forests. When they encountered something they liked, they would usually take out good things to exchange. Who lost and who gained was defined by the two sides of the exchange. This was the most primitive exchange in ancient times. It had nothing to do with the value of the item. After all, the demon clan did not have a specific way to evaluate the price like the immortal cultivation world. Perhaps there would be in the future. But on Misty Wave Island, transactions were all done by bartering. After feeling that he had really turned his body into nothingness, the confidence in Sakra's heart increased a bit. He thought to himself, the effect of each spiritual leaf of illusory spirit grass is only for a quarter of an hour, and the time limit of the bet is half an hour, which is 1 hour. In order to last for 45 minutes, he would need to consume 3 pills. I can't just stand here. I have to find a place to hide. After pondering for a moment, he didn't hesitate any longer. With a thought, his entire body floated forward. That's right, he was floating. It was a little inappropriate to say that he was floating. It was really difficult for him to feel his own body now. He didn't even have a trace of weight. This kind of feeling was really indescribably strange. His movement was not to hide in the depths of the forest, but to follow the path he came from and return to the open space where the demons had gathered. He had thought it through very clearly. Right now, the only thing that could avoid Ao Qing's search was the illusory spirit grass. If Ao Qing could even decipher the miraculous properties of the illusory spirit grass, no matter how deep he hid, as long as he was still on the island, it would be useless no matter how deep he hid. It was the same everywhere. On the contrary, when he returned to the gathering, he could watch Ao Qing's various methods. Even if he couldn't comprehend anything, he could at least gain some knowledge. After turning into nothingness, his speed was so fast that it was as if he had teleported. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the gathering and stood beside Ao Qing. The illusory spirit grass was really magical. Even though he was so close to Ao Qing, she didn't feel anything. It's time for an incense stick to burn. Di Shitian, you have to hide well. I'm going to start looking now. Hehe, don't make it too easy for me. Ao Qing calculated the time. When she saw that it was time, she couldn't help but show a trace of excitement on her face. She had a natural obsession when it came to gambling. No matter what the bet was, no matter who the opponent was, as long as it was a bet, she would have an obsession and confidence to win. When she saw that the time was up, she even shouted. Her voice didn't seem loud, but it spread across the entire Misty Wave Island in an instant. Uncle, what did Di Shitian eat just now? Why can't you find him anymore? It's as if he disappeared in an instant. The little girl standing on the highest misty wave peak couldn't help but murmur in surprise. She had been keeping her eyes and mind on Di Shitian. She wanted to see what was so special about the powerful monster king that her uncle said had cultivated all the way from an ordinary beast to a powerful one. However, he did not expect that he would be able to watch him disappear without a trace right under his nose. Not even a trace of his aura or figure could be caught. Silver Hair shook the wine gourd in his hand and poured another large mouthful of spirit wine. Smelling the strange wine fragrance, he sighed, "Good wine, really good wine. Monkey wine really lives up to its name of spirit wine. It can gather 100 types of fruits in one place and add in all kinds of spirit herbs, allowing the flavors of these spirit herbs and fruits to fuse together perfectly to form such a spirit wine. I can't help but be impressed. The ancestors of the monkey race are truly unparalleled geniuses." He didn't immediately answer the little girl's question. Instead, he praised the wine in his hand. This Silver Hair was actually the monster king that Di Shitian had given a gourd of wine to. After sighing, Silver Hair casually glanced around and smiled faintly. In this world, there are many inconceivable things. There are tens of thousands of wondrous things. How could a monster king that could rise from nothing not have his own methods? Compared to them, you're still far too lacking. That's why I brought you out this time to see the monster kings of the world. As for the leaf that Di Shitian swallowed just now, I'm afraid it's a rare spiritual item. It's really amazing to be able to change one's body to the point where even I can't find it. Haha. Continue watching. The Smoke Wave Dragon Race's princess should have many tricks up her sleeve as well. It will be beneficial in the future. By the time he finished speaking, Ao Ching had already made her move. Her two beautiful eyes gently closed, leaving only her eyelashes moving slightly. Imperceptibly, a tyrannical divine sense quickly spread out from her body, and in an instant, with her as the center, it quickly covered the entire Misty Wave Island. Wherever it passed, every inch of space and every inch of land seemed to have been plowed by an old ox. The strength of his divine sense was comparable to that of a demon king. The demon king mentioned here was not something that was casually mentioned in the demon clan, where one could transform after passing the demon tribulations. It was a true demon king with a fourth transformation inner core and a true demon king who had passed the 3-9 demon tribulations. After passing the 6-9 demonic tribulation, one would become a great demon. After passing the 9-9 demonic tribulation, one would become a demon sage. In other words, Ao Ching's cultivation was equivalent to a demon king with a fourth transformation realm inner core. It was far stronger than Di Shitian, who had just condensed his inner core. It had to be said that the Dragon Clan, as the leader of the scaly races, was blessed by nature. Their natural endowments were so good that it made one's hair stand on end. To be able to reach such a level of strength so easily, it was truly incredible. Such a tyrannical divine sense covered the entire island, almost plowing the entire Misty Wave Island once, leaving no inch of land untouched. Heaven and earth were covered by her tyrannical divine sense. When it covered the island, the diamonds on the island could not help but change their expressions as they felt Ao Ching's tyrannical strength. Everyone was looking at her with different gazes. After a while, Ao Ching's eyes suddenly opened, revealing a look of surprise, but more excitement. She murmured, "Hey, a demon king is indeed a demon king. Compared to other demon clans, you are indeed different. You actually have a way to escape from my divine sense. Interesting, really interesting. However, this is what makes it interesting. If I could win easily, wouldn't it be boring? Take a look at my 9 heavens and 10 earths god-searching technique." Ao Ching's interest was piqued. She quickly formed a series of mysterious seals with her hands and shouted softly. Immediately, an invisible wave appeared on the entire island at the same time. The 9 heavens and 10 earths god-searching technique could be said to be a powerful secret technique to search for enemies. As long as it was used, everything within 10,000 miles would be imprinted in one's mind in an instant, as if it was real. Within this range, regardless of whether it was a human, a deity, or a ghost, any living creature would show its traces. There was no possibility of hiding. It could search the heavens and the earth. Searching the heavens could search up to the 9 heavens, and searching the earth could search up to the 10 earths. Everything in the heavens and the earth was included. It was extremely powerful. According to legend, this secret technique had been lost in ancient times. Who would have thought that it would reappear here? The illusory spirit herb is indeed amazing. Di Shitian was standing beside Ao Qing. He was only a foot away from her, but when his divine thoughts passed through his body, there was no reaction at all. Now, the strange wave emitted by the 9 heavens and 10 earths God-searching technique also passed through his body naturally, as if there was nothing at all. The illusory spirit herb was really too magical. When it hid, all the aura on his body turned into nothingness. It was as if he had never existed. How could he search for him? No matter how powerful the secret technique was, there was no way to find him in nothingness. Impossible. After scanning several times with the secret technique, Ao Qing's originally excited face suddenly became serious. She was vaguely surprised. My 9 heavens and 10 earths God-searching technique was one from the know-it-all old urchin. He said that no matter whether it was in the heavens or the earth, no matter what, no living creature, as long as it was within this range, it would never escape its senses. How could it not find Di Shitian? Could it be that he gave me a defective product? Ao Qing secretly guessed, but how could she give up so easily? She adjusted her expression and said, "Humph, I don't believe that I can't find you. Just now, you left your aura here. Take my 10,000 miles tracking technique. It still won't work. It's impossible. I still have a Dharma treasure, the 9 children and mother heavenly ghost painting." Chapter 279. Faceless Turtle Spirit Mirror, Find Him for Me. 100 Ghosts Parade Portrait. 100 ghosts move out and search for heaven and earth. Demon Revealing Mirror. Ao Qing was indeed Ao Qing. No one knew how many treasures she had won with her gambling skills. In any case, all the demons who were paying attention to her were watching her take out all sorts of magical treasures from her cosmos sack. Their eyes were wide open, and their jaws dropped as they stared blankly at the treasures that they might not see even once in 1,000 years. Faceless Turtle Spirit Mirror. Turtles were spiritual creatures of heaven and earth, and their shells had always been refined by many powerful cultivators for divination purposes. Refining them into mirrors would make them even more powerful. As long as it shone on a place, it would be able to clearly reveal its true form. As long as the image of the person they were searching for was branded, they would be able to find it automatically. The 100 Ghosts Parade Portrait was a treasure of the underworld. It could absorb countless ghosts and control them for one's own use. It was very powerful. It was said that it was a formation diagram. The demon revealing mirror was even more powerful. It was said that any demon would reveal their true form in front of it. It could search heaven and earth. Some of these magical treasures were authentic, while others were fakes. However, their power was not to be underestimated. Seeing that Di Shitian could not be found by any of her secret techniques, Ao Qing grew anxious. She used all of her magical treasures at once. Instantly, 100 ghosts roamed the island, and waves of sinister aura filled the air. The entire island seemed to have turned into a ghost town. It was terrifying. Di Shitian, who was standing beside her, was sweating profusely. He was completely numb to Ao Qing's endless treasures. He really did not know how many treasures she had in her cosmos sack. If he could get his hands on them, he would go from a pauper to a millionaire. In fact, Ao Qing herself didn't know how many treasures there were in the Chenkuan bag. Anyway, after she mastered her gambling skills, she often left the Dragon Palace and wandered around. She gambled with whoever she met. Even if she didn't want to gamble, she would still play with them. She had been to the 4 seas, the Purple Gold Continent, the world of immortal cultivation, and the secular world. She threw all the treasures she won into the Chenkuan bag. According to her, it didn't matter what she won. Even if it was a stone, as long as she could bet with her. Over time, the treasures in the Chenkuan bag began to move. There were so many of them that even she, the owner, didn't know how many there were. It wasn't as if no one had ever coveted her treasures before. However, her cultivation was not just any ordinary high level. Furthermore, she had the Dragon Clan as her backing. Who would provoke the Dragon Clan, one of the few powerful clans in the Purple Gold continent, for no reason? Wasn't that the same as asking for death? However, no matter how many magic treasures she had, she still couldn't find Di Shitian. And Di Shitian had already taken another illusionary spirit leaf. For a moment, all the monsters were amazed by the magic of Ao Qing's secret method and her many magic treasures. At the same time, they also admired Di Shitian even more. After all, no one could be sure that he could hide under such a series of continuous searches. Of course, Di Shitian could always keep his whereabouts. This method was absolutely amazing. Therefore, whether it was those monsters who were still in the monster realm or the monster kings who had condensed their inner elixirs, they all remembered Di Shitian's name at this moment. Therefore, Di Shitian had unknowingly become famous among the monster clan. At this time, on the island, it could be said that all the monsters knew about him. It's impossible. Di Shitian had just condensed his inner core. Logically speaking, it's impossible for him to escape from my search. I have so many magic treasures and mystic arts, but I still can't find him. Could it be that he has some mystical mystic arts and mystic arts? Ao Qing's brows were tightly knitted as she secretly guessed how Di Shitian escaped from her search. However, no matter how hard he racked his brains, he still couldn't figure out what kind of method could be used to hide so deeply on this tiny island. Looking around, there were many monsters gathered around, and the water clan of the Dragon Palace was maintaining order. However, almost all the eyes of the monsters were focused on her. Am I really going to lose? Ao Qing couldn't help but have a thought that she had never had before. Once it appeared, it was hard to erase. Thinking back carefully, ever since she mastered gambling, she had almost never lost. She gambled all over the world and won all over the world. She didn't expect to suffer such a big setback here. Her expression was gloomy, and the corners of her mouth twitched a few times, revealing a somewhat ugly smile. She took a deep breath, waved her hand, and put away all the treasures in front of her. She raised her voice and said, Di Shitian, come out. I, Ao Qing, admit defeat. She had used all her skills, but to no avail. There was no point in delaying any further. Although only an hour had passed, she already knew in her heart that she had lost this bet. She had always had a straightforward personality. Although it was hard for her to accept losing the competition, she always knew that a loss was a loss, and a win was a win. In this aspect, she had always been very clear about it. However, it was undeniable that the courage required to make a victorious general lower her head and admit defeat was definitely not something that an ordinary person could imagine. Princess Ao Qing is indeed an extraordinary woman. Di Shitian admires you. Just as Ao Qing finished speaking, Di Shitian didn't hide anymore, and said with deep admiration in his heart. He was standing right beside Ao Qing, and his voice was completely by her ear. It gave Ao Qing a huge fright. She hurriedly turned her head, only to see Di Shitian's body reappearing in front of her from the void. Wow, this is too unbelievable. Di Shitian is actually by Princess Ao Qing's side. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? The person I'm looking for is actually right in front of me. What kind of mystique is this? He's really on Misty Wave Island. I thought Di Shitian had left the island, and that was why he wasn't found. I didn't expect. Demon King, could this be the Demon King's mystique? I've decided, I'm going to work hard to become a Demon King. Di Shitian had always appeared so close to Ao Qing. This gave the demons, and even Ao Qing, an indescribable shock. Shock, it was indeed shocking. No one would have thought that Di Shitian had always been standing just a step away from Ao Qing. Ao Qing couldn't help but open her mouth wide, and only closed it after a long while. She was still a little shocked, and when she turned around, she looked a little downcast. She took out the Shenlong's paradise map and threw it into Di Shitian's hands, saying, I lost. According to the bet, this Shenlong's paradise map is now yours. But halfway through, she suddenly changed her tone and said in a high-pitched voice, although you won this time, You definitely won't have the chance to win against me next time. I'll come and find you again." With that, she waved her sleeves and leapt into the air. Roar. A dragon's roar shook the heavens. Ao Qing's body suddenly turned into a green divine dragon, and with a splash, she dove into the misty wave lake. It seemed that she was in a bad mood after losing the bet, and had returned to the Dragon Palace. "The Shenlong's paradise map is a treasure, and it's too important to me. I'd better go back to the quiet room of the inn and refine it first. A long night is fraught with problems." Although he had already guessed Ao Qing's identity, when she turned into a dragon, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. In his previous life, he had the identity of a descendant of the dragon, but all along, he had never seen a divine dragon with his own eyes. Now that he saw it, he could only sigh in his heart. It was indeed the supreme of all beasts, the head of scales. It was really miraculous. Holding the Shenlong's paradise map, Di Shitian couldn't help but feel excited. This was a true treasure, and there was a cave hidden in it, but to use it, it had to be refined and recognized as its master. Only then would he be qualified to plant all kinds of spiritual essences and seeds in the cave. This could be said to be a very important matter. Therefore, without hesitation, he first put away the scroll and walked straight to the quiet room. As for the demons who wanted to meet along the way, he just kept rejecting them. In the end, he really had no choice but to fly away. Returning to the quiet room, he probed the scroll with his demon consciousness. Suddenly, a wave of information from the scroll entered his mind. It was about the refining method of the scroll. This method also secretly surprised Di Shitian, not because it was too complicated, but because it was too simple. It was too simple, and there were only 2 steps. First, drip blood to recognize the master, and then obtain the preliminary recognition, and then enter the cave in the painting. In the bamboo courtyard in the cave, there was a cave-suppressing spiritual tablet, and as long as this cave-suppressing spiritual tablet was refined, it would be fine. At that time, everything in the cave would be under his control. Di Shitian didn't hesitate and immediately began to refine on the smoke wave peak. The silver-haired uncle and niece who had witnessed everything with their own eyes also withdrew their gazes. Uncle, in Yuer's opinion, Di Shitian relied on the power of spiritual essences to win dishonorably. "It's also not his own ability," Yuer said with some dissatisfaction. "Haha, Yuer, what's dishonorable about this? Didn't Ao Qing also use a magic treasure? Spiritual essences are external objects, and so are magic treasures. Anything, as long as it can be used, it can be won. That's the only reason. There's no such thing as external objects. If you really want to fight, it's about life and death. In the face of life and death, any means are not important." The silver-haired man's words carried a deep sense of realization. "All right, Yuer, in a while, the Sky Fae mystic realm will open, and I'll take you there. No matter how far you can go, just treat it as an experience. Perhaps you can gain some enlightenment in there. If you're lucky, you can find that pagoda. If you obtain that pagoda, your future will be limitless. Sooner or later, you'll step into the peak of the world. Pagoda, pagoda. Who in the world wouldn't be tempted by a pagoda? That was a true treasure, a gem. Once one obtained it, one could change one's fate. Even a pig could cultivate a great divine power. Got it, uncle. Yuer definitely won't let you down. Remember, in the mystic realm, there are not only demons, but also human cultivators. When the time comes, you can't be soft-hearted when you encounter them. Kill, kill. If you don't kill them, they'll kill you. In the mystic realm, I can't save you. There's no mercy to speak of. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please visit www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support original reading. Chapter 280. Yuer understands. However, uncle, you've entered the mystic realm once before. Now that the mystic realm is about to open again, shouldn't you tell Yuer about the situation in the mystic realm? Yuer raised her little face. Her fair and delicate little face was filled with anticipation and a thirst for knowledge. Silverhair raised the bottle gourd and poured another mouthful of spiritual wine into his mouth. He said, "It's not that Uncle doesn't want to tell you, but the Sky Demon mystic realm is a small world created by the supreme masters of the Sky Demon realm using the seed of the world tree. It's a unique existence that's independent of heaven and earth. It's constructed by great magical powers. No one knows how big the mystic realm is, how many obstacles there are, and how dangerous it is. Some things won't be of much use even if I tell you. As long as you enter the mystic realm, everyone will be separated and teleported to different places. Back then, the place I was teleported to was a sea of fire." His words were filled with emotion. For countless years, the Sky Demon mystic realm had appeared many times, but there were very few who could really benefit from it. In the mystic realm, what was tested was one's cultivation, willpower, and even unfathomable luck. Perhaps, when you were teleported, your luck defied the heavens and you were directly teleported to a rare treasure. It was easy to get. There were examples of this. However, you have to be careful of one thing. If you can reach a place called the Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge, you must be careful. Silverhair doted on his niece after all. He knew that once she entered the mystic realm, it would be difficult to help her. Inside, she could only rely on herself. No one had the ability to help her. However, there were some things that were beneficial to remind her now. Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge. Uncle, what is that place? Yuer's spirit was lifted, and there was a glimmer of light in her eyes. She focused her mind, afraid that she would miss anything. The Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge is a divine bridge built over a large river. The river under the bridge is called the Huang Quan River, also known as the Huang Quan Purgatory River. Any living creature that falls into the river will be instantly corroded, and their soul will fall into the river forever. They will suffer endless torment and pain in the Huang Quan River. No matter how powerful you are, you won't be able to escape the fate of never being reincarnated. The expression of the silver-haired man at this time was also very dignified. Faintly, there was a trace of indescribable fear. He took a deep breath and continued, "Moreover, you can't fly on the Huang Quan River. Even if you have the ability to reach the heavens, you can't fly over it. The only way is the Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge. Only 9 living beings could cross this bridge. Once 9 of them passed through, no one else would be able to move forward. He could only retreat. Therefore, on the bridge, every inch of road was an inch of blood. Crossing the bridge was a path of blood. If you want to obtain a fortuitous encounter, you have to fight, rob, and kill." His tone was very calm, but the meaning behind his words gave off an ice-cold killing intent. Although it was plain, it revealed the law of the jungle. If you are strong, you will have opportunities. Opportunities will not fall on your head for no reason. You will have to fight for them. Yuer's face stiffened, and the light in her eyes turned a few times. She nodded seriously and said, "Yuer will remember Uncle's teachings." Millimeter, the silver-haired man looked at the void with a deep gaze and said, "Yuer, this time you decided to go to the secret realm yourself. Once you enter the secret realm, whether you live or die depends on you. If you come out alive, your future achievements will be immeasurable. If you die inside, Uncle will finish what you have not done." "Thank you, Uncle." Not to mention the shocking secret that the uncle and nephew discussed on the smoke wave peak, even if it was about the Sky Demon's secret realm, it had nothing to do with Di Shitian. At this time, Di Shitian was sitting in the quiet room. In front of him, a long scroll painting had been unfolded in the air. The scene in the painting was vivid and lifelike. On the surface of the painting, there were faint bursts of yellow light that flowed quickly. The light radiated in all directions, and gradually, the entire quiet room was filled with alternating lights. Faintly, there were strange sounds coming from the painting. The sound of running water, the sound of the wind blowing by, and the fragrance of the soil. Everything felt like it was very rustic. It was as if he had returned to the simple mountain village. The cave suppression spiritual tablet is flexible. The grotto heaven is only for my use. It belongs to me. After a long time, when the yellow light on the painting reached its peak, Di Shitian's eyes that had been closed for a long time suddenly opened. 2 threatening rays of light shot out and landed on the painting. Then, with a soft shout, the entire Shinnon Grotto Heaven painting was wrapped in a yellow light and rushed into his body with a whoosh. In the blink of an eye, it fell into the demon residence. It was not difficult to refine the Shinnon Grotto Heaven painting. Originally, it did not have an owner. Therefore, the refinement was like a hot knife through butter. It only took 2 hours to refine the cave suppression spiritual tablet and completely control the entire Grotto Heaven. When the Shinnon Grotto Heaven painting entered his body, it could be said that it was inseparable and integrated into one. With a thought, everything in the Shinnon Grotto Heaven immediately appeared in his mind. The Grotto Heaven is refined. Now let's see if this Grotto Heaven is really as magical as Ao Ching said. At the same time, I'll plant the spiritual herbs and seeds I got, so that the medicinal properties of the spiritual herbs won't be lost. Now that he had mastered the Shinnon Grotto Heaven painting, Di Shitian naturally wanted to test if this newly acquired Grotto Heaven was really as magical and useful as the legends said. Without any hesitation, with just a thought, he saw that in the quiet room, his body was like a ripple, rippling strangely for a moment. Then, he disappeared into thin air. When he disappeared, there was not even a trace of fluctuation. His departure could be said to be strange. When he reappeared, Di Shitian was already standing in the Grotto Heaven. When his feet landed on the 5-colored soil, an extremely rich spiritual energy immediately rushed into his body through his feet. It quickly circulated in his body along the demon veins and easily turned into the purest demon chi. The spiritual energy contained in the 5-colored soil was really rich to an incredible extent. Taking a deep breath and smelling the fragrance of the earth in the air, he couldn't help but feel relaxed and happy. He was pleasantly surprised. Sure enough, Ao Ching didn't lie to me. This earth should be the legendary 5-colored earth. Any spiritual item that is planted in here can perfectly survive. Although the Grotto Heaven is not big, it is a perfect place to plant spiritual herbs. Feeling the magic of the soil under his feet, Di Shitian was also secretly amazed. This was only the 5-colored soil. If it was the legendary first divine soil, the living soil of the 9th heaven, how magical would it be? The lake is condensed by the 5 elements true water, and the stream is the sky river. Such a treasure land, good soil, good water, has all the conditions to grow all spiritual herbs. What spiritual herbs can't survive? Looking carefully, the Grotto Heaven was really not big. It was only 3 miles in radius. But for planting, it was completely enough. As the saying goes, a greedy man is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. It was already a blessing to have such a Grotto Heaven. If he asked for too much, he would be too greedy. Patting the storage bag at his waist, jade boxes wrapped in a ray of spiritual light flew out and piled up in front of him. These jade boxes contained all the spiritual herbs that he had exchanged previously, as well as the spiritual herbs that he had accidentally found and plucked. This time, he took them all out. The first thing he opened was the illusory spirit grass. At this time, the first 3 leaves of the illusory spirit grass were gone. Di Shitian had used them for the bet. Now that he thought about it, this trade was quite worth it. The roots of the illusory spirit grass were all intact. He dug a small hole in the ground and carefully planted the illusory spirit grass. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the 5 elements true water in the lake. Immediately, the entire stalk of illusory spirit grass glowed with vitality. The roots pierced into the soil happily, and the entire stalk of illusory spirit grass glowed with light. The leaves danced and rustled, playing the music of life. The illusory spirit grass was alive again. One had to know that it was not easy to plant a spiritual herb that had been plucked out again. But here, it could be grown easily. Shinnon Grotto Heaven was really extraordinary. Seeing this scene, Di Shitian could not help but feel secretly happy. Without further thought, he opened the other jade boxes one by one and took out all kinds of precious spiritual herbs. He found a place close to the stream and planted the saplings of the immortal peach tree. The ghost-faced peach tree was stored in a mustard seed jade box from an adult tree. When he took it out, it was more than 10 feet tall. It could grow as soon as he planted it. He then planted the blood body vine under the peach tree and let it climb up the tree trunk. All kinds of ginseng, sealwort, and lingji were planted one by one. Lotus flowers that grew in the water were also planted in the lake. With the 5 elements true water, there would be no problem for them to grow. All kinds of seeds were scattered one after another. With the help of the 5 colors soil, it would not take long for saplings to grow. Then, he planted a purple bamboo around the courtyard. The purple bamboo grew quickly here. After a while, bamboo shoots would grow and new bamboo would be born. At that time, it would form a purple bamboo forest, which would be interesting. Finally, after planting the few spiritual tea trees that he had obtained earlier, he had already planted all the spirit essences he had on hand. With the spiritual herbs as decoration, the whole grotto heaven was unknowingly overflowing with a kind of life aura. After looking around carefully, Di Shitian revealed a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. A trace of determination flashed in his eyes. With such a good grotto heaven, it would be a waste not to plant all kinds of spiritual herbs in it. He had already made up his mind. In the future, as long as he found spiritual herbs, he would transplant them here. He would definitely make this grotto heaven the best place for spiritual herbs. He would plant an inexhaustible supply of spiritual herbs for himself. With this grotto heaven, he would have the opportunity to brew all kinds of spiritual wine. This was also a reflection of his foundation. After staying in the grotto heaven for a while, he left it. For a moment, in the quiet room, Di Shitian's body strangely appeared out of thin air, just like when he left. Knock, knock, knock. As soon as he returned, there was a rhythmic knock on the door outside. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 281. Who would be looking for me at this time? Di Shitian frowned slightly. Although everyone on Yanbo Island was from the demon clan, he didn't know many of them. The only one that left a deep impression on him was Ao Ching and that unfathomable silver hair. Apart from Medusa, no one else knew where he lived. Could it be Medusa? Although he was deep in thought, he still said in a deep voice, "Please come in." The quiet room had its own restriction. After all, it was made by the Dragon Palace, so it was impossible for there to be no preventive measures. Otherwise, it would be a tragedy if someone was inexplicably disturbed during the closed-door cultivation and suffered from qigong deviation. As he spoke, he waved his hand and removed the restriction in the quiet room. Jiwai. With a soft sound, the door was pushed open. Surprisingly, the one outside was not Medusa as he expected. Instead, it was an old tortoise with a black tortoise shell draped over his body. He was dressed almost exactly like the Prime Minister tortoise in the TV series in his previous life. He was holding a jade token in his hand. Seeing Di Shitian in the quiet room, a smile appeared on his face. "Your Excellency, I'm the Prime Minister tortoise of the Yanbo Dragon Palace. Please forgive me for disturbing you." Prime Minister tortoise walked into the room with a smile. It wasn't that he couldn't hide his tortoise shell and transform into his human form. Carrying a tortoise shell on his back was a habit or even a symbol of his identity. So it's the Prime Minister tortoise of the Dragon Palace. "Greetings, Di Shitian." In fact, Sakura had already guessed his identity when he first saw him. It was really because his dressing was too obvious. It was hard not to know. However, he didn't look down on him. How could the Prime Minister of the Dragon Palace be ordinary? He had an important position in the Dragon Palace. He stood up and asked doubtfully, "Prime Minister, may I know why you're looking for me?" As the saying went, one wouldn't wait for nothing. He didn't think that the Prime Minister tortoise was here just because he had nothing to do. "Demon King, you're too polite." Prime Minister Turtle said amiably, "Old Turtle is actually here to inform Demon King of the location of the treasure trading convention that will be held in a few days. If there's anything you don't understand, Old Tortoise can also answer your questions." After chatting, Di Shitian learned that Dragon Palace was still the host of the treasure trading conference. After all, this was the territory of Dragon Palace. As the host, he would not neglect the Demon Kings. The participants of the treasure trading conference were all Demon Kings, and each of them held a pivotal position in the demon tribe. For such a Demon King, the items he would be trading would definitely be extraordinary. It was obviously impossible for others to host it. Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't have the ability to do so. Only the independent and powerful Dragon Clan had the strength and qualifications to do so. This was also the reason why Prime Minister Turtle had come to inform him. Speaking of which, the location of the treasure trading conference was indeed unusual. It was held in a crystal palace that Dragon King had taken out. The crystal palace could be said to be a magic treasure. The space inside was no different from a real palace. It was the most suitable place for the conference to be held. The key to entering was the jade token that Prime Minister Turtle had delivered. When the time was up, one could crush the jade token and enter the crystal palace instantly. After the transaction, one could leave freely. Dragon Palace was only the host. They wouldn't interfere with any transactions in the middle of the conference. They were only there to maintain order. Their status could be said to be extraordinary. Now, there were only 8 days left before the treasure trading conference. After sending Prime Minister Turtle away, Di Shitian's eyes flashed with an inexplicable look. He had a good impression of Prime Minister Turtle. Prime Minister Turtle's aura was very amiable, and he did things very simply. There was a reason why someone from the Turtle Clan could be the Prime Minister. After all, the Turtle Clan had a long lifespan. They had experienced and seen far more things than other clans. With rich experience, they would naturally be good helpers to Dragon King. I have to participate in the treasure trading conference. However, there are still 8 days before the conference. I can't waste these few days. I'll go out and set up a wine stall for a few more days. I can't waste such a good place like Shengnong Wonderland. Di Shitian made up his mind. No one would mind buying more good things. He still had some ordinary spiritual wine. If he really ran out of them, he could take out some more 10-year-old ones from the god of wine gourd. They had different values and could be exchanged for more spiritual essences. As for the treasure trading conference, he didn't bother to prepare for it. At that time, he would take out some of the 100-year-old monkey wine. If he couldn't, he would take out the rarest 1000-year-old monkey wine, which was only about 10 gourds. Its value was greatly different from that of ordinary spiritual wine. Just a sip of it was a treasure that couldn't be bought with money. He didn't have to worry about not being able to exchange for good things. He didn't think too much about it. The next day, he went back to his original position, set up his stall, and continued to do business. There were many demons on Misty Wave Island, but there were also many cultivators on North Underworld Island. North Underworld Island was located in the middle of North Underworld Lake. Unlike Misty Wave Lake, North Underworld Lake was the most desolate and dangerous lake. The water inside was called North Underworld water. This water was extremely cold. No matter what season it was, it emitted an awe-inspiring chill. Moreover, every night, the chill would become more intense. As soon as the sky turned dark, thick layers of ice would form on the surface of the lake, covering the entire North Underworld Lake. If one fell into North Underworld Lake at night, the chill in the lake would freeze one to death, even if one was a core formation cultivator. Turning into an ice sculpture was truly terrifying. Ordinary aquatic creatures couldn't adapt to such an environment at all. Even if they entered the lake, they would be frozen solid in less than an hour. However, this was a strange place. Ordinary aquatic creatures couldn't survive, but there was a type of fish in the lake called the fiery sunfish. Its body was fiery red, and its body contained extremely strong heat. In this cold North Underworld lake, not only would it not freeze to death, but it would also live freely like a fish in water. The coldness of the lake water could neutralize the heat in its body. The truly miraculous thing was that if one ate the fiery sunfish, their lifespan would increase. The only white fish scale on their heads made them immune to water and fire. In the past, There were cultivators who specially collected these scales and refined them into a treasured garment called the heavenly silk garment. When worn, it could repel water and fire and was impervious to all evils. It was a rare treasure. Now, after being hunted, the fiery sunfish was relatively rare. On North Underworld Island, one could see that the cold couldn't extinguish the blazing fire in the hearts of the cultivators. It even ignited their desire for the treasures in the heavenly demon mystic realm. With a casual glance, he saw that the number of cultivators gathered on the island was far greater than that of the demon race. From foundation establishment to nascent soul cultivators, it could be said that there were all kinds of cultivators. On this island, while it was crowded, it also formed a market. It was extraordinarily lively. Looking at the number, there were probably hundreds of thousands. Experts gathered. There were also all kinds of inns built on the island. There were many of them. At this moment, in a quiet room in an inn, two young girls were sitting together. One of them was a girl in plain clothes with a veil on her face and a zither on her lap. The girl in front of her had a playful face and looked very delicate. Sister Katomi, do you think Big Brother Di will also participate in the heavenly demon mystic realm this time? The delicate girl supported her chin with both hands and said longingly, Xiao Dai hasn't seen Big Brother Di for almost a year. I wonder how he's doing now. If Di Shitian was here, he would realize that this girl was actually Xiao Dai, the girl he met in the Zither Melody Valley back then. She had also joined the Zither family. The one wearing a veil in front of him was Katomi. I have a feeling that Big Brother Di will definitely come. Katomi gently stroked the zither in her hand, revealing traces of indescribable emotions towards this zither. She said, however, my father told me that the heavenly demon mystic realm is a secret left behind by the experts of the demon clan. There are 2 entrances, but apart from the demon clan, it's very difficult for others to know where they are. Even if they know, they can't go. It seems that the entrance is guarded by the dragon clan. However, although the entrances are different, I believe that Big Brother Di and I will definitely meet again in the mystic realm. There was a hint of confidence in her voice. Xiao Dai also wants to see Big Brother Di. Anyway, whether he's a demon or not, he won't hurt Xiao Dai. Actually, there's nothing wrong with being a demon. Xiao Dai also knew about Di Shitian's identity. Although she was surprised, she didn't reject him too much when she thought about their experiences together. In another inn, Chu Yun, who was dressed in green, raised her eyebrows and looked out of the window. She clenched her fists and muttered, Father gave me a precious treasure of the family and asked me to come here to find an opportunity. I definitely can't disappoint him. That trash Zhong Yunfei can't even subdue a demon tiger. He wants to marry me. Dream on. If I can get an opportunity this time, I will have a chance to increase my strength greatly. In the future, I can go wherever I want. No one can control me. In her mind, a divine black tiger inexplicably appeared. In her heart, she still hadn't given up on the thought of subduing the black tiger. The Li family of Lingnan had also sent out the most elite team in the entire family this time. The leader was an elder who had already stepped into the core formation realm. This was a core formation realm expert that was forcefully nurtured with countless resources. It could be said that the Li family had done everything for this matter. The Chu family where Chu Yun was. The Qin family where Katomi was. The Blood Cloud sect and so on. Almost all of the sects had sent experts here. On this North Night Island, it could be said that most of the forces in the cultivation world had gathered. Most of the elites were here. Of course, the experts sent by the major forces in the cultivation world were also based on the foundation that wouldn't affect the overall strength of the sect. After all, every time the heavenly demon secret realm opened, less than 30% of the cultivators who entered came out. The number of people who died inside was uncountable. What they had to consider was the inheritance of their own sect. It was impossible for them to come out in full force. The treasures in the secret realm were too elusive. But even so, the strength gathered was still immeasurable. Compared to the demon clan, they were much stronger. To be continued. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 282. In the past, the sects that Di Shetien had encountered and known were like a speck of a leopard in North Night Island. Take those large sects for example. The Thousand Beasts sect was one, and so was the High Heaven sect. The Blood Cloud sect and the Lianyun sect could be said to belong to this category. But here, there were more than a dozen such large sects. This did not include the 4 great holy lands that were above the large sects: Heavenly Sword Valley, Myriad Demons Palace, Benevolent Boathouse, and Great Void Temple. These were the 4 holy lands of the cultivation world with unfathomable strength. Even apart from these, on the Zijin mainland, there were still many hidden forces that did not reveal themselves. In this world, no one would know exactly how many powerful existences and forces were hidden under the immortal cultivation world that seemed to be bright and clear. As long as they were not touched, this situation might continue until one day, when something that could threaten them happened, they would erupt with incredible power at the same time. Take the Qin family that Kotomi belonged to for example. On the surface, it did not seem to be a big deal. The Qin family's patriarch, Qin Xian, was at most a nascent soul master. However, when it came to a moment of life and death, the energy they unleashed would be unbearable for anyone. Without strength, how could the Qin family guard the mysterious seal for countless years? Hidden strength was called a foundation. Coincidentally, the Heavenly Demon Mystery Realm was a major event that could attract the attention of those hidden forces. Therefore, at this moment, North Night Island was filled with people from all walks of life. Any random person in front of you could be the young master of a powerful force. It was truly a place filled with nobles. But whether it was North Night Island or Smoky Wave Island, the Sky Monster Mystic Realm had not opened, so they could only wait on the island. When it opened, they could naturally choose whether to enter or not according to their wishes. If they entered, even nascent soul masters would be in danger of dying. Don't forget who created the Mystic Realm. The Sky Monsters of the Monster Clan looked at nascent soul cultivators as if they were looking at ants. They could casually poke a large number of them to death with a finger. What happened to North Night Island had nothing to do with Di Shetien now. Even if he wanted to know, it would be difficult. He just followed his own plan and leisurely set up a stall on the island for 8 days, selling wine for a few days in exchange for a large pile of spirit essences. Some of the spirit essences were simply strange, and he had never even heard of them. However, he still didn't refuse them. As long as it was a spirit essence or a treasure, he wouldn't refuse. No matter how many there were, he would take them all. In any case, he didn't have much other things, but he had a lot of spirit wine. What was worth mentioning was that the ice fire fruit that they had been looking for previously was also traded for 10 gourds of spirit wine by a demon on the 3rd day. Of course, a single fruit was not worth so much spirit wine. The key point was that the other party had brought the ice fire fruit tree along with them. This fruit tree was entirely the color of ice crystals and was not very tall. It was only about half a meter tall. This was already an adult tree and would not grow any taller. The 5-colored soil, which could adapt to the growth of any spiritual essence, naturally allowed the spirit tree to be rejuvenated and grow again. Di Shetien also planned to wait for a period of time, cut off the branches and transplant them, and cultivate a few more. It just so happened that they could be used to brew mystic ice jade fire wine. This was a spirit wine that was not inferior to the monkey wine. The harvest from this trip to Misty Wave Island is indeed boundless. I have a grotto heaven and a spiritual essence. With just these two, I am confident that I can cultivate the Myriad Demon Valley into a powerful force in a short period of time. When the mystic ice jade fire wine is brewed, I can also know the brewing steps of the next spirit wine from the wine god's treasure mirror. However, the treasure trading convention should be starting soon. Di Shetien stood in the quiet room, holding the jade pendant that Prime Minister Turtle had personally sent over. The jade pendant, which did not have any special features, was now flowing back and forth with a trace of jade light, which looked abnormally magical. Calculating the time, it was already time for the convention to start. He was not very interested in the convention. After all, if the convention on the island was for low-level transactions, then the treasure trading convention was for high-end treasures. Seeing the reaction of the jade pendant, he knew that it was urging him to go to the Crystal Palace. Without hesitation, he crushed the jade pendant in his hand. When the jade pendant broke, it turned into countless snow-white light spots, which gathered together and magically formed a door that could allow one person to pass through. Seeing the door, he walked in. As soon as he entered the door, in the blink of an eye, he strangely disappeared in a flash of light. Along with the door, he disappeared into nothingness. Anyway, Di Shitian did not have anything to do outside. He had the wine grass and the icefire fruit for brewing wine. Other spiritual herbs could be found in the grotto heaven. The wine god's gourd was the most precious treasure for brewing wine. There was a wine pool in the gourd that was specially used for brewing wine. As long as various spiritual herbs were put in according to the formula, the wine could be brewed automatically. There was no need to pay attention to it deliberately. Moreover, the water used for brewing wine was the sky river in the grotto heaven. It was the purest. It could be predicted that it wouldn't be long before another type of spirit wine would be added to the god of wine gourd. Sakura reckoned that with the mystical nature of the god of wine gourd, he would probably be able to taste it before the mystic realm opened. After stepping into the gate of nothingness, Sakura only felt as if he had walked into water. With just one step, the scene in front of him changed, and when he looked again, he was already in a huge palace. As he stepped onto the palace, a series of crisp footsteps sounded under his feet. With a casual glance, Di Shitian could not help but be amazed. The ancient saying is right. Don't say that the Dragon King has no treasure. The entire palace was built with crystals. There were all kinds of carvings, all of which were exquisite to the extreme. In the palace, there were 9 crystal pillars supporting the entire palace. Sir, please follow me to take a seat here. There were many beautiful maidservants in the crystal palace. Judging from their auras, they were all transformed from the water tribe. Most of them were transformed from various fish, clams, and other creatures of the water tribe. Not a single one of them was weak. Upon seeing Indra entering, a young girl immediately came before him and led the way for him. Without hesitation, he followed behind the young girl and entered the hall. In the hall, there was a huge rectangular table. Numerous chairs were placed around the table, and the number of chairs was so many that there were actually over 100 seats. At this moment, there were already dozens of monster kings seated at the table. Looking around, he was surprised to see Medusa among them. Seeing that the seat beside her was empty, he sat down and exchanged glances with Medusa. They smiled faintly and nodded to each other. The host at the head of the table was Prime Minister Turtle, whom he had met before. Brother Di, I've been waiting here anxiously. I was afraid that you wouldn't come to this gathering. If you did, I wouldn't have any spiritual wine to drink. Di Shitian looked around and sized up the monster kings who had come. He looked very carefully. Monster kings who had condensed their inner elixirs were powerful figures in the monster clan. They were all second to none. If they wanted to make a name for themselves in the monster clan, it was inevitable that they would have to interact with these monster kings. The appearance of these monster kings after they transformed was mostly related to their temperament. For example, some looked rough, but their temperament was obviously the same. Some looked gloomy, which was probably related to their original bodies. Some were arrogant, some were handsome, and so on. They were all different. However, they could roughly see their respective natures. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 283. In fact, as soon as they stepped into the Crystal Palace, the treasure trading convention had already begun. Everyone could take out their treasures and say what they wanted to exchange. If they liked it, they could exchange treasures with each other and the transaction would be considered complete. The process was very simple. The purpose of the treasure trading convention was to exchange treasures. As the organizer, the Dragon Palace was also the host. They sent Prime Minister Turtle to support them. However, they would not interfere with the transactions here. Di Shitian and Silver Hair could be said to be the first to start the transaction. They attracted most of the Monster King's attention from the beginning. However, the items in the box made many Monster King's expressions change slightly. Obviously, they recognized the items in the box. The 5 elements sacred lotus was not an ordinary spiritual item because only 5 lotus seeds would be born on the 5 elements sacred lotus at a time. These lotus seeds were also called 5 elements lotus seeds. Each one was different and belonged to the 5 elements. They were called fire lotus seeds, water lotus seeds, and so on. They were named after the 5 elements. The conditions for their growth were extremely harsh. They could only be found in places where the 5 elements gathered. They could only be born in places where the power of the 5 elements was abnormally abundant. The conditions for their growth were almost exactly the same as the legendary 5 elements fruit tree. However, the 5 elements sacred lotus grew in water. Therefore, the place where it grew had to have water of the 5 elements. The 5 elements fruit tree had to be on land of the 5 elements. However, whether it was the 5 elements lotus seed or the 5 elements fruit, their effects were not very different. Any one of them could transform the physique of the person who consumed it into the body of 5 elements. For example, if one consumed the fire lotus seed or the fire elemental fruit, one's physique might transform into the body of fire elemental virtue, which was most suitable for practicing fire elemental techniques. The others could also be deduced in order. It was extraordinary. It also had healing properties. Usually, they could not be seen at all. Because the conditions for their growth were too harsh, most of them were probably extinct by now. They did not expect Silver Hair to take out one so casually. It was valuable. It could be said to be immeasurable. It was extremely beneficial to any monster clan. This made the other monster kings exclaim one after another. Their eyes were filled with desire, but they were also clear about the rules here. During the transaction, outsiders were not allowed to interfere. Unless one party was dissatisfied with the item, they could not interfere. 5 elements Saint Lotus. Di Shitian was first overjoyed, then bitter. Looking at the 5 elements Saint Lotus, he shook his head and smiled wryly. This Saint Lotus is too precious. My spirit wine can't compare to it at all. I'm afraid I can't take out anything comparable to it. I don't know how you want to do it. If it was outside at the meeting. If the other demon clans were to trade it for wine, the demon clans wouldn't be able to do so. Di Shitian didn't say a word and wanted to change it no matter what. However, everyone here was a monster king. Every single one of them had intelligence that was not the slightest bit inferior to any human. None of them were fools. If you wanted to use a few gourds of wine to exchange for such a spirit item, you wouldn't even need to think about it. Hee. Silver Hair looked at Sakura with a smile that wasn't a smile, as if he didn't care at all. I obtained this 5 elements sacred lotus by accident. The lotus seeds on it have all been removed by me. Its value isn't as great as you think. Just give me some spirit wine as you see fit. There was an indescribable free and easy look on his face. Di Shitian took a closer look. Indeed, all the lotus seeds on the Saint Lotus had been taken. There was only one Saint Lotus left. If he wanted to cultivate another one, he would need to spend a lot of time and find the 5 elements primordial water. In terms of value, it was indeed much less valuable. But to him, it was still attractive enough. In the grotto heaven, there was a lake formed by the 5 elements primordial water. It was the most suitable place to cultivate the 5 elements Saint Lotus. With the Saint Lotus, there was no need to worry about the lack of lotus seeds. Since that's the case, 100 10-year-old monkey wine, 5 gourds of 100-year-old monkey wine, and 1 gourd of 1000-year-old monkey wine. What do you think? Di Shitian thought for a while and stated his price. The most valuable thing here was the 1,000-year-old spirit wine. It was truly a priceless treasure. Hearing this, Silverhair's eyes lit up. He looked at Di Shitian and smiled. All right, deal. I didn't expect you to have the 1,000-year-old spirit wine. I'm taking advantage of you in this deal. The light in his eyes was very kind. The deal went smoothly. Di Shitian took out the spirit wine and received the jade box containing the 5 elements Saint Lotus. The transaction this time could be considered to have been completed successfully. With them throwing out a brick to attract more jade, the other monster kings also started to make deals. The items they took out were indeed rare treasures. Many of them were priceless treasures. It was only at times like this that they would take out their treasures of thousands of years to exchange for what they needed. Di Shitian also took out the 1,000-year-old spirit wine and said that he wanted to exchange it for some precious spirit herbs. Needless to say, the name of the spirit wine also made many monster kings want it. They made deals several times. He also obtained a few precious spirit items, including a 9-leaf violet orchid and a passion flower tree. Together with a myriad calamity golden bamboo seedling, they had a good harvest. However, the items that the other monster kings made deals with also opened Di Shitian's eyes. There were Dharma treasures, mystical items, and all kinds of precious elixirs. If they were taken out and placed in the immortal cultivation world, they would immediately cause a bloody storm. Medusa also exchanged a 5-colored strange stone for a supreme-grade Dharma treasure called the Sky Snake Staff. It was said that its power could enter the realm of spiritual treasures. He was also very satisfied. The deals in the Crystal Palace had always been carried out normally. It was not like ordinary people who quarreled endlessly. If they agreed, they would make deals. If they disagreed, they would take back their treasures. The deals were carried out very quickly. Many of the demon monarchs who had obtained the items they wanted left happily. In Di Shitian's opinion, this treasure exchange convention was not too mysterious. At most, the value of the items traded was different because of the different identities of the traders. There was nothing else. Seeing the monster kings trading with each other and the happy expressions from the bottom of their hearts after obtaining the items they wanted, Di Shitian could not help but have a thought in his heart. Most of the monster clan's clansmen are distributed in various mountain ranges. It is very difficult for them to meet each other. Many times, it is also very difficult to find a certain item. That is why this trip to Misty Wave Island is so important. From the looks of it, if I develop my myriad demon valley in the future, if I establish an auction venue, it will definitely be very popular among the monster clan. Moreover, in my opinion, it is even more necessary to build a monster city. He secretly thought in his heart and planned for the future. The trade fair was almost done. Many monster kings had already left. There were not many left. Looking at the situation, Di Shitian also left with Medusa. There was an exit in the Crystal Hall. They could leave after entering it. After leaving the hall, Di Shitian and Medusa appeared on Misty Wave Peak. Di Shitian. Seeing that there was no one around, Medusa glanced at Di Shitian with her beautiful eyes. With a strange expression on her face, she suddenly said, "In the past few days, I have asked other monster kings about the heavenly demon secret realm." Hearing this, Di Shitian immediately perked up. His ears pricked up, afraid that he would miss out on anything. He replied, "Could it be that you have found out something important?" Although he said that, he was already certain that since Medusa had spoken, she must have obtained some accurate information. Medusa's expression was still indifferent, but she still said, "Yes, I have heard some information from some monster clan members who have participated in the secret realm in the past. Please tell me." Di Shitian's expression was serious. After all, this was not a small matter. It was related to the heavenly demon secret realm. Perhaps, if they knew more now, it would be immeasurable for them to enter the secret realm. "It's about the heavenly yin-yang bridge and the Huangquan River," Medusa said as she walked down the mountain. Di Shitian frowned and muttered, "Heavenly yin-yang bridge? I have heard of the Huangquan River, but what is the heavenly yin-yang bridge? He could not help but look at Medusa in confusion. This is a barrier. Medusa's expression was very serious. According to what I know, this heavenly yin-yang bridge is a path of life and death in the secret realm. It is a bridge paved with blood. It is said that this bridge is the final obstacle in the arcane pocket realm, and is the only way to reach the other side of the arcane pocket realm. However, only 9 people can pass through this bridge. What's even more frightening is that as long as you step onto the bridge, no matter how high your cultivation base is, your cultivation base will be sealed instantly. You won't be able to fly or use magical techniques. Once you reach the top, you will become an ordinary person. It doesn't matter if it is the true essence of cultivators or the monster clan. It will all be sealed within your body. When the time comes, the only thing you can rely on when you reach the top is your own physical body, martial arts, and battle skills. He listened to Medusa's words slowly. Di Shitian was incomparably shocked. This heavenly yin-yang bridge was simply a graveyard of death. The dangers it contained were immeasurable. It could actually seal the cultivation base of all living beings, turning them into ordinary people. The only thing they could rely on was their own physical body and battle skills. Thinking about it, a nascent soul expert might be incomparably powerful outside. But once they stepped on the bridge, their cultivation base would be sealed. Their strength would be no different from that of an ordinary cultivator. When the time came to fight, they would not have any advantage. On the heavenly yin-yang bridge, it was equivalent to putting all living beings on equal footing. However, in this way, body cultivators, or even monster clan cultivators, would have a huge advantage. After all, monster clan cultivators' bodies were so strong that cultivators' bodies could not possibly match them. Take Di Shitian for example. He was an ancient monster clan cultivator. His body and monster chi could be said to have cultivated at the same time. The strength of his body was not the slightest bit inferior to that of any martial clan cultivator. If they really fought, the tiger soul would definitely be able to cause a storm of blood. A path of blood would be carved out. If you want to know more, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 284. Hee. A strange smile appeared in Di Shitian's eyes. If that's the case, we demons will have a huge advantage when we reach the heavenly yin-yang bridge. At that time, the cultivation levels of the human nascent soul cultivators will be sealed. Perhaps my tiger soul will have to drink the blood of a nascent soul cultivator to see what's the difference. He raised his eyebrows. There was a thick murderous aura between his brows. Human cultivators started from the chi refinement realm and went straight to the foundation establishment realm, core formation realm, nascent soul realm, astral projection realm, soul integration realm, tribulation transcendence realm, and ascension realm. There was a clear hierarchy. In this trip to the heavenly demon mystic realm, those nascent soul cultivators who had not appeared for a long time would definitely appear. Perhaps even the astral projection and soul-severing old monsters above the nascent soul realm would appear. However, no matter how high one's cultivation level was, as long as one stepped onto the heavenly yin-yang bridge, no matter how high one's cultivation level was, it would be suppressed. At that time, it would not be too difficult to kill them. Strictly speaking, if one stepped onto the heavenly yin-yang bridge and faced the demons, the only ones who could match up to them were those martial body cultivators. However, martial body cultivators had lost most of their heritage. Those who walked the path of martial body cultivators were only a few itinerant cultivators. From what Di Shitian knew, Wu Wudi was the only person he knew. Back then, he had already cultivated to the body-tempering realm of martial body cultivators. Now, if nothing unexpected happened, he must have stepped into the tendon's transformation realm. The strength of his martial body was probably not inferior to the demons. You can't be careless. Medusa was not too surprised when she heard that he was going to kill the strongest human cultivators. The two races were enemies to begin with. There was not much friendship to speak of. However, she still reminded him, although all living beings will have their cultivation levels suppressed when they step onto the bridge, the mystic realm was built by our demon ancestors. It was a place for us, the younger generation of the demon race, to obtain opportunities. Even if our cultivation levels are suppressed, we still have our demon bodies. However, human cultivators have all kinds of Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures. If we use our blood essence to activate the power of our Dharma treasures, their combat strength will not be inferior to us demons. When the time comes, we must not underestimate the enemy. Indeed, humans had all kinds of Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures. Even if they could not use their Dharma treasures, they could use their talismans. The power of the explosion would not be small. It was definitely not an easy task to carve out a bloody path on the bridge. Thank you for the reminder. Di Shitian nodded, expressing his gratitude. In fact, he didn't need her reminder. He wasn't stupid enough to think that those powerhouses above the nascent soul stage would recklessly cross the bridge like ordinary people. That was a gamble on the fleeting and illusory luck. After all, at that time, if they didn't have any other means, even the cultivator who crossed the tribulation would be on the same starting line as the other cultivators. No matter who it was, the longer they lived, the more they feared death. Whenever a cultivator made a breakthrough, they would not go out to play. Instead, they would go into secluded meditation, hoping to reach the next level before their longevity ran out. That was how it went. The old freaks would not come out unless absolutely necessary. Why? He was simply afraid of death. As they spoke, they left Misty Wave Peak and returned to their respective quiet rooms. Just like that, the Treasure Exchange convention came to an end. To be honest, this convention was somewhat different from what Di Shitian had imagined. In one word, it was too casual and without any rules. It wasn't very formal. However, none of this had much to do with him for the time being. He planted the 5 elemental sacred lotus that he had exchanged for in the lake within his paradise. He also planted the other spirit essences carefully, especially the passion flower tree. The passion flower on the tree was the main ingredient for brewing spirit wine, called heart-pulling wine. It was very strange. He sat down cross-legged on the futon. Hum. With a soft hum, the golden tiger soul appeared in front of him. He held the saber hilt with one hand and gently stroked the amber-like saber with the other. There was an inexplicable look in his eyes, which seemed abnormally deep. The tiger soul seemed to have spirituality. As he stroked the saber hummed from time to time, and there was a faint tiger roar in the humming. Tiger soul, oh tiger soul, ever since you advanced into a Dharma treasure, you haven't drunk a single drop of blood. I'm sure you're very thirsty. Don't be anxious. When we reach the Sky Fae mystic realm, I'll bring you to battle again and let you have a good meal. I'll let your sharpness become the nightmare of my enemies. Di Shitian looked at the tiger soul as if he was looking at a lover or a brother. Whether it was the tiger soul or the 7 sins demonic zither, they were both his natal demon weapons. The materials used to refine these two treasures were so precious that it was impossible to estimate. If Sakra's own cultivation had already condensed an inner core when he was refining them, he was afraid that what was refined would not be a magic weapon, but would directly be promoted to the ranks of magic weapons. Now that he had condensed an inner core, the 2 intrinsic demonic artifacts naturally advanced as well. The 7 sins demonic zither had absorbed too much power of desire, so it was still in hibernation in the demon residence. It was impossible to use it for the time being. However, the tiger soul had already completed its transformation. Its grade had directly advanced to Dharma treasure grade. Although it was only an inferior grade Dharma treasure. However, its own potential and the level of its magic treasure might not be its limit. As for the tiger soul, after it advanced to a Dharma treasure, a little spirituality was born in the saber. This bit of spirituality completely separated it from Dharma treasures. Furthermore, its sharpness was even sharper. Now, under the tiger soul's sharpness, Even a middle-grade Dharma treasure would be sliced apart if it were to clash head-on. Even a superior-grade Dharma treasure would be damaged. Furthermore, what was even more terrifying was that perhaps because the soul-devouring stone was melted into the tiger soul when it was refined, the tiger soul gained a powerful divine ability when it advanced to a Dharma treasure. In battle, it could absorb the opponent's blood essence and transform it into the purest essence chi before injecting it into his body. This allowed him to never face the danger of his demonic essence drying up in battle. It was just like the investiture of the god's Dharma treasure in his previous life, the blood dissipation saber. Just this characteristic alone immediately allowed the tiger soul to squeeze into an extremely high position among the divine weapons. Buzz. Buzz. The tiger soul was indeed different now that it had spirituality. It seemed to be able to understand Di Shitien's words, and it was also dual cultivating with Di Shitien. For a moment, the saber trembled slightly, and a golden amber divine light burst out continuously. The cry carried a kind of joy, and bloodthirstiness. Di Shitian saw it and smiled faintly. He placed the tiger soul across his knees, placed one hand on the saber hilt and the other on the saber blade, and closed his eyes to circulate his demonic essence. It was different from the usual cultivation technique. When the demonic essence circulated to his arm, it actually entered the tiger soul saber through his palm. It circulated through the tiger soul, came out from his left hand, and returned to his body through his right hand. After the demonic essence circulated through the tiger soul, it returned to his body, and there was a faint trace of the tiger soul's dominance. Using the demonic essence to nourish the divine weapon, and using the divine weapon's aura to temper the demonic essence, as the opening of the mystic realm approached, Di Shitian did not go out to set up a stall. Instead, he stayed in the quiet room like the other demon kings and tried his best to adjust his essence, chi, and spirit. He held a gourd in one hand and drank spiritual wine as he spoke casually. Although this superpower is like a mountain to me now, I can only look up to it. I will be in awe, but not fearful. Instead, it has allowed me to see the path ahead. Di Shitian was not surprised by Silverhair's appearance beside him. Even if he knew that Silverhair was one of the 8 great demon kings, he could not bring himself to bow to Silverhair. In the face of an irresistible mighty power, he would be in awe, but he would not lose confidence. All along the way, his will had become extremely firm since a long time ago, and he possessed the confidence to climb to the peak. Moreover, he'd even personally experienced the peak state of a peerless expert on the Bone Wasteland, and that trace of comprehension was branded in his heart. He had his own understanding of cultivation. If he wanted to climb to the peak, he had to have courage that was fearless, perseverance that would never give up, and confidence that would press forward. Back then, the enlightenment in the withered bone wilderness had an inestimable impact on him. In the face of an expert, reverence could urge him to move forward and give him motivation. However, he could not have fear. If he had fear, there would be a shadow in his heart. If his will was not strong enough, how could he climb to the peak? Di Shitian, what a good guy. When Silverhair heard this, not only did he not think that he was arrogant, he even gave him a look of approval. The little girl beside him also looked at Di Shitian with a different expression. It had become a little different. She lowered her eyes thoughtfully. She thought to herself, is this the great perseverance that Uncle said only a demon king who rose from humble beginnings can have? Rumble. Since the vortex appeared, it had only been a short while. Not only did it turn day into night, terrifying bolts of lightning flashed around the vortex like a torrential storm. Silver snakes danced wildly, showing the ferocity and terror of the heavens' might in this pitch-black world. At the same time, a huge amount of spirit energy gathered around the vortex. It appeared in 4 directions. This is the heavenly omen when the mystic realm opens. Back then, I witnessed it with my own eyes. After the heavenly omen finishes, a divine light will descend from the vortex. When it falls on you, it will cover the entire Smoky Wave Island. When the divine light falls on you, it will not be forcibly guided. If you don't want to go to the mystic realm, you can resist with your own cultivation, and you can naturally break the divine light. If you want to go, you just need to follow the traction of the divine light, and you can throw yourself into the mystic realm. However, when you enter the mystic realm, you will appear in different places. Little brother Di, remember this. Entering the mystic realm itself is a great opportunity. The scenery inside will be an eye-opener for you. Silver Hair said with deep meaning. He had entered the mystic realm before, but he did not clearly explain the things in the mystic realm. He just said with a faint smile, if you want to become an overlord, get the inheritance of the heavenly demon. Not only will your achievements be limitless, but our demon clan will also rise again. Howl. Not waiting for Sakura to carefully ponder over the meaning of Silverhair's words, a resounding and long cry that was filled with boundless majesty abruptly resounded. He hurriedly raised his head to look, and shockingly, he saw that in the surroundings of the vortex, an enormous divine bird that was completely enveloped in terrifying crimson-red flames inconceivably condensed. This divine bird elegantly stretched its feathers and spread its wings slightly. Immediately, hot air billows rolled down and swept through heaven and earth. It was not difficult to recognize that this divine bird was the vermilion bird of the 4 divine beasts. Howl. Without waiting for the vermilion bird to release its power, a tyrannical tiger roar filled with killing intent followed. After the roar, a mystical white tiger with wings on its back also condensed. Then, a black tortoise with a turtle and snake body appeared. An azure dragon that looked down on the sky. They appeared one after another. They were entrenched around the vortex. One roar after another shook the heavens. It was actually the 4 divine beasts guarding at the same time. The pressure of the divine beasts poured out and fell on Smoky Wave Island. On the spot, countless demons with weak cultivation were involuntarily awed by their majesty and fell to their knees with a plop. This is the pressure of the divine beasts. It is indeed terrifying. Di Shitien's waist was always straight as a sea-stabilizing needle, but on his body, he could clearly feel that there were several mountains pressing down on his head. That kind of terrifying pressure made him feel suffocated. Under such circumstances, not to mention making a move, even moving was difficult. If he really faced the divine beasts, he was afraid that just their aura alone would be able to crush him to death. Now, it was just an image condensed in response to the heavenly omen. It was not their real bodies at all. This kind of pressure lasted for a moment. Howl. The 4 divine beasts roared one after another, and the figures that were originally condensed suddenly scattered, turning into countless light spots. These light spots, in an instant, formed streaks of golden divine light that fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, the entire Smoky Wave Island was completely covered under the divine light. Almost all the living beings on the island were covered by the divine light. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Within the divine light, there was a strange pulling force. The pulling force was not strong. If one really wanted to resist, the divine light would easily shatter. Many of the demonic beasts on the island already knew the function of the divine light. As the light flashed, the demonic beasts' eyes shone with excitement. Under the pull of the divine light, they turned into streaks of golden light and escaped into the mysterious vortex. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared. Not even a ripple appeared in the vortex. See you in front of the Tongtian Yin-Yang Bridge. Di Shitian felt the pulling force outside his body, turned to look at Silver Hair, and nodded. He held the tiger soul hilt with his right hand, turned his wrist, and made a soft sound. Tiger soul was unsheathed. He pointed diagonally below him. He let go of his mind. He allowed the divine light to lead him out. Like the other demons, he instantly escaped into the vortex. Be careful. Silver Hair looked at the little girl gently and nodded. His silver hair fluttered behind him, and without any hesitation, he turned into a divine light and escaped. For a moment, the divine light on Smoky Wave Island flickered continuously. In this darkness, it was like streaks of bright fireworks. It was really very strange. As they escaped with the divine light, their hearts were filled with endless expectations for the mystic realm. However, out of the thousands of people who entered, How many could really come out? The opening of the mystic realm was an opportunity, a massacre, and death. It was not just Smoky Wave Island. The same heavenly sign was also present on North Underworld Island. However, in North Underworld, the divine light that descended was much more than that of Smoky Wave Island. Until now, according to a rough estimate, there were hundreds of thousands of cultivators gathered on the island. All of them were the elites of the elites. For a moment, the guiding divine light flickered continuously. Such a strange scene could be said to only occur once in thousands of years on the purple gold mainland. In the deepest part of Smoky Wave Lake, there was a strange and magical underwater palace. This palace was formed by a large number of halls. It was strange to say that there was actually a layer of invisible light barrier around the palace that separated the surrounding water. It caused the space inside to have no water entering. On this palace, there were ancient seal words, Crystal Palace. It was the palace of the Smoky Wave Dragon clan. At this moment, in the main hall of the palace, there was a large group of dragons gathered. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 285. Yes, it was the dragon race. Their bodies were indeed no different from humans. They had the exact Tao body. However, although they had the body of a human, there were different dragon horns on their heads. Most of them grew on their foreheads. These dragon horns varied in size, age, and age. If one looked carefully, one could see traces of divine light flowing on them. The most important part of a dragon's body was none other than the dragon pearl. Their cultivation was all in the dragon pearl. Dragons were on par with the demon clan. Strictly speaking, dragons could also be considered a member of the demon clan. The demon clan cultivated the demon core. All their cultivation was poured into the inner core. The dragon clan's supernatural powers were all in the dragon pearl. This was the same. It was completely different from the human cultivators of today. The second important part of the dragon race was the dragon horn. The dragon horn contained their essence. As the saying went, those with scales and horns were dragons, while those without horns were snakes. Dragons did not live with snakes. It was obvious that there was a huge difference between having horns and not having horns. Another thing was the reverse scale. As the saying went, dragons had reverse scales and those who touched them would die. Let's not talk about that for now. The Crystal Palace was built in a dazzling manner. Corals and seaweed that usually grew in the sea grew in the Misty Wave Lake. Compared to the Crystal Palace, the palace hall was like a child's play. It was unrivaled. Any one of these pearls was priceless. Not to mention the countless treasures in the water. The dragon race gathered in the Crystal Palace looked at the ancient bronze mirror floating in the middle of the hall. The bronze mirror had clearly been activated. It turned into a huge screen of light. On the surface of the bronze mirror, there were ripples like flowing water. A scene appeared in the mirror. If one took a closer look, it was not difficult to see that the scene in the mirror was the scene on Misty Wave Island. The figures of the demon race who escaped with the help of the divine light could be seen clearly in the mirror. Heavenly Demon Mystic Realm, oh Heavenly Demon Mystic Realm. This is the third time I've seen the opening of a mystic realm. Even now, I'm still unable to achieve such a great power. The divine powers of a heavenly demon are immeasurable. However, the number of demons that came this time was much fewer than the previous 2 times. It was a pity. It's easy to enter, but I wonder how many there will be when we come out. Above the Crystal Palace, a dignified old dragon wearing a dragon robe sat upright. He was awe-inspiring without being angry. Looking at the scene in the mirror, his expression revealed traces of reminiscence. Father, you once said that when you were young, you also went in with us. Why don't you tell us what is in the secret realm? Why is it that no matter if it's the demon clan or the human clan, once they hear that the secret territory is open, they all want to enter at all costs? On the left and right, The Dragon King's family was sitting in the main hall. Beside the old Dragon King, there was a beautiful middle-aged woman. She had a mature charm that was completely different from that of a young girl. She was not the slightest bit inferior to any peerless beauty. Beside him, Prime Minister Turtle stood respectfully. On both sides, there were two youths on the left. One was around 15 or 16 years old, while the other was around 8 or 9 years old. They were all young Dragon Clan members. On the right, there were 3 dragon ladies. The first one was the one who spoke. If Di Shitian was here, he would realize that this dragon lady was the first princess of the Dragon Clan, Ao Ching, who had made a bet with him previously. She was dressed in green and looked even more heroic. The second one was a dragon lady who was around 17 or 18 years old. She was the second princess of the Smoke Wave Dragon Clan, Ao Hong. She was a fire dragon. Her favorite thing to do was to find people to fight. A small fight every 3 days and a big fight every 5 days. If she did not fight for a day, she would feel uncomfortable all over. The last one was around 15 or 16 years old. She was the most adorable and had 2 goats on her head. Her small face was rosy and the most attractive thing about her was her 2 watery eyes. It was as if there was a pool of clear water in her eyes and they were extremely pure. Speaking of these 3 dragon ladies, the old Dragon King had a headache. He was really helpless. Mystic Realm? The old Dragon King, who had been shrewd for tens of thousands of years, could not help but change his expression when he mentioned the Sky Demon Mystic Realm. After staring at the scene in the mirror for a long time, he sighed and said, "That thing is not simple. The demon clan in the ancient age was really terrifying. How is that a mystic realm? It is a small world. The remarkable power of the Sky Demon is immeasurable. I am sure that other than the demon clan, no one else, be it the human clan or the other clans, can obtain the mystic realm. That is because it is a backup plan left behind by the Sky Demon for the demon clan to rise again. It is a place for survival to preserve the seeds of the demon clan." As the old Dragon King spoke, there was an indescribable emotion in his voice. It was extremely complicated. What? The demon clan can rise again after obtaining the mystic realm? What exactly is in the mystic realm? In an instant, the Dragon Clan members who were seated all exclaimed. They all knew what the old Dragon King meant. If it was true, it would have a huge impact on the entire Zijin mainland. The demon race was a race that once dominated the world, spanning from ancient times to the present. They were a tyrannical race that dominated the world for countless years. During the ancient times, the demon race had produced countless peerless experts. In the ancient age, there was no other race that could compete with them. Although the demon clan was weak now, those old monsters who had lived long enough could not forget their power during the ancient age. If the demon clan really rose again, the power structure of the entire mainland would be completely broken. To be honest, when your father entered the mystic realm to take a look, I was almost scared to death. If the Sky Demon took out all the wealth accumulated by the Sky Demon for the demon clan, it would be enough to scare the human clan to death. The rise of the demon clan is in the bag. Especially with that supreme treasure. It won't be long before the human clan cultivators give them a hard time. The old Dragon King was not embarrassed. Instead, he said in a gloating tone, "Unfortunately, it's too difficult to gain the recognition of the Sky Demon. With the current demon clan, I'm afraid, it'll be difficult." The word difficult described the myriad of difficulties in the mystic realm. Not to mention the conversation between the Smoke Wave Dragon Clan. These would not affect the determination of the demon clan and the human clan to enter the mystic realm. Streaks of divine light flickered like fireworks. In the darkness, they looked even more beautiful. Sakura was wrapped in this divine light and directly rushed into that huge whirlpool. The whirlpool spun non-stop, bringing along a spiral force that was absolutely irresistible. However, within the divine light, Sakura didn't feel the mighty force of the whirlpool at all. He directly shuttled through a position in the whirlpool. He passed through the vortex easily. I passed through it so easily. I've arrived at the Sky Demon Mystic Realm. Sakura unhurriedly held the tiger soul in his hand. The demonic chi in his body had already started to circulate, swiftly circulating within each demonic vein in his body. His mind was raised to an extreme level. Traces of radiance shot out from his eyes. Without the slightest hesitation, he swiftly scanned his surroundings. Suddenly, the divine light outside his body suddenly disappeared. It disappeared strangely. Obviously, its mission was completed and it disappeared naturally. As soon as the divine light dispersed, Sakura only felt that his entire body suddenly sank and was about to fall down. Casually looking around, he noticed that he had actually appeared directly in mid-air. If he were to fall down like this, there wouldn't be any damage, but he would definitely be in a sorry state. The divine light disappeared suddenly, but what kind of person was he? With a thought, a cloud of demonic wind condensed under him out of thin air. Both of his feet stepped on the black demonic wind and stood proudly. The strong wind blew the corners of his clothes, and his long hair fluttered behind him. An arrogant and domineering aura arose spontaneously. He held the tiger soul horizontally in his hand, and a domineering aura surged out as he scanned the area below. He looked around. His eyes could not help but show a hint of surprise. Beneath him, there wasn't a mountain of blades, a sea of flames, or a boundless purgatory that Sakura had imagined. Instead, there were stretches of boundless mountains and rivers, with countless towering ancient trees that were incomparably dense. There was a scene of vitality everywhere. It was completely different from what he had imagined. For a moment, he could not help but feel a little stunned. Rumble. Suddenly, thunder rumbled above his head. He hurriedly looked up. In the void, there was a bright moon hanging high in the sky. The sound of thunder was so loud that it spread throughout the entire world. Around the bright moon, countless white rays of light appeared out of nowhere. As soon as these rays of light appeared, they immediately gathered and strangely formed purple lightning. It shook the void. Amidst the sound of thunder, the purple lightning was like purple divine dragons that constantly shuttled and wreaked havoc. However, there were no signs of dissipating. For some reason, Di Shitian could vaguely feel that there was a strange aura of revival and vitality amidst the sound of thunder. Crack! The rays of light around the bright moon appeared one after another, continuously forming purple lightning. It was as if there was no end to it. Suddenly, these purple lightning bolts bombarded the bright moon from all directions at the same time. With a loud bang, the terrifying sound of thunder shook the surrounding void. Countless purple lightning bolts seemed to have poured all of their power into the bright moon in this collision. For a moment, the bright moon that was originally sprinkling silver-white moonlight was instantly covered with a thick purple color. The bright moon had turned into a purple moon. Countless purple lightning bolts from all around rushed into the purple moon, causing the purple light that burst out from the purple moon to become stronger and stronger. Crash! Just as Di Shitian was staring at the scene in front of him, suddenly, countless sounds of the air being torn apart fell from the sky. No, it should be said that it fell from the purple moon. Endless purple light burst out from the purple moon, covering the world. However, as soon as the purple light left the purple moon, it instantly turned into a purple line. Rain. It was not purple light that fell, but purple rain. Could this be the legendary purple thunder sweet rain? Even with Di Shitian's mental fortitude, at this moment, he could not help but open his eyes wide and his mouth wide open. He could not close it for a long time. It had endless benefits for all living things. No matter if it was grass, trees, birds, or beasts. As long as there was enough sweet rain. That way, they would be able to give birth to spirituality. It triggered the accumulated power in their bodies. In a short period of time, he had directly passed the test of the form transformation demon tribulation. He transformed into a demon. This sweet rain could awaken the intellect and allow ordinary beasts to develop spirituality. It could transform all living things into demons. Moreover, there were no hidden dangers in this process. After they transformed, their cultivation bases would vary according to their potential and accumulation. The stronger ones, such as the strange beasts that had lived in ignorance for thousands of years, might have the strength of a demon king that had condensed an inner core as soon as they transformed. Ordinary birds and beasts might have similar strength as spirit beasts. However, their foundation, their starting point, was completely intact. It could be said that their cultivation speed was incomparably fast, and their intellect would not be damaged in the slightest. To the demon clan, this was a blessing from heaven and earth to all living things. A purple thunder rain could allow the demon clan to have countless new juniors. The numbers increased greatly. In ancient times, it was because of the purple thunder rain that had descended several times that the demon clan's numbers had increased greatly, allowing them to occupy the powerful position of the number one clan in ancient times. Unfortunately, after ancient times, there had never been another purple gold rain that descended on the purple gold mainland. Otherwise, the demon clan would not have fallen into such a declining state today. It was said that the demon awakening technique of the demon clan was created based on the purple thunder rain. Unfortunately, it was not a purple thunder rain, and the hidden dangers were obvious. What is going on? Is this a mystic realm? Could this be the method of a sky demon? Di Shitian secretly frowned as he carefully observed the white light. The more he looked, the more he felt that the white light seemed to be formed from the light that was constantly devoured by the vortex on Smoky Wave Island. He secretly pondered, and his heart suddenly surged with waves of shock. Devouring the essence of the sun from the outside world, transforming it into purple thunder in the mystic realm, and using the power of purple thunder to form the purple thunder rain. For a moment, his mind quickly deduced the scene in front of him. With his wisdom, he had vaguely grasped the origin of this purple thunder rain. It was actually using the stealing sky-changing sun technique to steal the essence from the outside world and condense it into a rain. If this method was true, the sky demon's magical power could be seen from this. Amazing, really amazing. Although there was no proof, Di Shitian already felt that this might be true. Watching the rain falling continuously, Di Shitian's mind quickly turned, and he thought to himself, looking at the effect of this purple thunder rain, if it is really the same as in ancient times, then after the rain, there will definitely be a large number of creatures in the mystic realm that will transform into the demon clan and come out. With the countless plants, birds, and beasts here, the number of transformed demon clan must be huge. If I can bring it outside, wouldn't the strength of the demon clan be greatly increased in an instant? No, if I can take them all for my own use and integrate them under my power, becoming a member of my myriad demon valley, then the myriad demon valley that I built will really be worthy of its name. Countless thoughts flashed wildly in Di Shitian's mind. Countless possibilities made his eyes grow brighter and brighter. Indeed, if such a group of demon clan could really gather under him, it would only take a little time for him to become the most powerful demon king in the demon clan. No, just as he was thinking, a beam of divine light suddenly descended from the sky and completely covered his entire body. Then, his body involuntarily spun countless times before it was sucked into a strange place. Along the way, he did not have the slightest ability to resist. He was directly taken away. Di Shitian did not see that just after he was taken away. Below, in the dense mountain forest, a group of wild people wearing animal skins came out. No, it should be the demon clan. After they came out, one after another, they knelt down devoutly to the purple moon in the sky and curled up on the ground, letting the rain fall on them. The one in the lead was an old man with white hair. Behind him, there were many young, middle-aged, men and women of different appearances of the demon clan. Behind them, there were many such groups walking out of the mountain forest together. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of demon clan had gathered in the open space. If one took a closer look, they would realize that each group of demon clan members exuded a different aura. It seemed that those gathered together were all demon clan people who had transformed into human form. It's another purple thunder rain. Lord Heavenly Demon's grace. Most of the people behind him were beautiful women, led by an old man. The other people, whether they were beautiful women or handsome young men, looked at the old man with eyes full of respect. The old man looked at Ziyu with a look of reverence and devotion in his eyes. The descent of the purple thunder rain this time means that the mystic realm opened by Lord Heavenly Demon has reopened outside. Then, can the people who came in this time obtain Lord Heavenly Demon's inheritance and bring us out? Chapter 287. As long as they did not die, there was hope. As long as they were not destroyed, they were the winners. In the ancient calamity, the great collapse of the heavens caused the demon race's experts to perish. After the great collapse of the heavens, the human race turned against the demon race. The battle that established the human race as the main characters was the moment when the demon race was almost annihilated. To the demon race, it was a bloody battle that they had no chance of winning. Only in the end, the elites of each race would be selected. Escape into the mystic realm. Preserve the last bit of vitality of the demon race, the last glimmer of hope for their rise. As long as they could preserve the heavenly demon mystic realm, it would be an invisible victory for the demon race at that time. Because they had won the last capital to turn the situation around. They were waiting for their descendants to come and take this great opportunity for their rise. Unfortunately, the heavenly demon's plan back then was indeed the only feasible way to preserve the seed. In the mystic realm, there was a small world of its own. With the purple lightning's sweet rain, it gave birth to sentience and continuously transformed into demon race. It helped the demon race to recuperate and accumulate strength. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort. However, the heavenly demon only wanted to recuperate. He did not expect that the mystic realm he created would open one after another, but not a single descendant of the demon race could obtain his inheritance. They could reopen the mystic realm and lead the large number of demon race members in the mystic realm back to the mainland where they had lived for generations. The demon race's losses back then were too great. Over the past tens of thousands of years, the human race had continuously killed demons for their cause and consumed the demon race's cause to increase their cultivation. For countless years, countless demon race ancestors had died because of this. The demon race declined even further. To this day, not a single demon race member could obtain his inheritance. It even led to the current situation. Lord Heavenly Demon, do you know? We, the younger generation, have been waiting here for generations. But because of our lifespans, we had no choice but to step into the demon burial mound and wait for our deaths. So many ancestors, so many demon race heroes, died in vain just like that. If Lord Heavenly Demon were still alive, I'm afraid you would cry. Who looked up at the purple moon and the sweet rain falling from the purple moon. His eyes revealed a sorrowful expression. If I can't obtain the inheritance, I will also go to the demon burial mound to accompany my ancestors. Hearing his words, many demon race members around him with the same sorrowful expression. Obviously, he felt the same way. There were great opportunities in the mystic realm, but to the descendants of the ancient Fey race who had retreated into the mystic realm, it was an indescribable sorrow. Back then, the Heaven Fae had sacrificed themselves to preserve the Fey race's fire. After they had retreated to the secret realm, he had sealed the passageway to the secret realm. No one could open the passageway unless they had a higher cultivation than him. They could only wait for this natural opening that only happened once every few thousand years. Only then would he be able to connect the secret realm to the purple gold continent. However, a small world was ultimately a small world. Furthermore, it was a small mystic realm that the heavenly demon had been forced to create in a hurry. Furthermore, it was a place where the legacy was to be established. Naturally, this small world couldn't compare to the purple gold continent outside. The heaven and earth spirit chi here was really thin. It was fine when it was first opened, but after countless years, the spirit chi here was far from what it used to be. Furthermore, there was a restriction in the mystic realm. It was impossible to condense an inner core in this small world. Although Hu and the other demons were all in human form, they did not have inner cores in their bodies. This was because they were limited by the heaven and earth. Without condensing an inner core, no matter how long a demon's lifespan was, they would still wither and die. This was the price they had to pay. It was lamentable and lamentable. I pray that someone can pass the legacy this time. I pray that we can return to our ancestral land while we are still alive. We will die for the rise of the demon race. Even if we die, we will have no regrets. Let us see our ancestral land once more. Countless demonic beasts knelt down and prayed to the purple moon. Their prayers contained a kind of ancient rhyme. This place is. Naturally, Di Shitian didn't know what these ancient demon descendants were praying to. The mystic realm was divided into two layers. One was on earth, and the other was in the sky. The first layer was for living beings to rest and recuperate, while the second layer was for the land of legacy. Taking Di Shitian and the rest as an example, all the demon clan and human clan that entered the mystic realm from the outside, generally speaking, they would not appear in the place where the descendants of the demon clan could cultivate and live. They would appear together in the land of legacy. They would be tested by the heavenly demon. If nothing unexpected happened, they wouldn't know that there was another world in the mystic realm. Di Shitian, on the other hand, had inexplicably paused in another layer of the mystic realm for a short while. What he saw and understood were great secrets that had never appeared before. Unfortunately, just as he was about to explore, the mystic realm automatically sent him to another place. Caught by the divine light, the scenery in front of him changed in the blink of an eye. He couldn't help but be shocked. Kill, kill, kill. Cold murderous cries that shook the heavens and penetrated the 9 hells poured into Di Shitian's ears. That murderous aura, that murderous power, didn't come from one person or 100 people, but from tens of millions or trillions of living beings. The murderous cries that came from within his body. Di Shitian tightly gripped the tiger soul that was connected to his bloodline. Even with his mental fortitude, he couldn't help but tremble violently at this moment. His expression changed, one of shock and disbelief. In front of him was an ancient starry sky. He stood in this ancient starry space. Around him, there were countless tall figures. Boundless demonic aura shook the starry sky. Boundless murderous aura broke through the heavens. Demonic aura filled the entire starry sky, occupying half of the starry sky world. On countless stars, there were great demons that were thousands of feet tall and demon sages directly under their feet. Tragic murderous aura burst out from their bodies. It was so strong that it made the starry sky tremble and countless stars fall. Countless demon race experts who could shatter stars with just their aura alone were densely packed in the starry sky. If one were to count carefully, there were probably no less than 10 million demons formed by other demon kings and great demons. There were hundreds of millions of them. Countless demons even revealed their true forms or spread out huge wings on their bodies. They held sharp battle blades in their hands. Their bodies were brimming with an indomitable and tragic aura. Kill, kill, kill. The same voice converged like a stream. With a roar, the starry sky was destroyed and stars fell. TSK, TSK. In front of the endless demon race army were countless demon gods that were densely packed like locusts. The demonic aura that burst out from these demon gods was not inferior to that of the demon race. It filled the starry sky and was on par with the demonic aura. It was truly terrifying. Each of these demon gods had a massive body that was hundreds or even thousands of feet tall. They had terrifying appearances and were all different. Some had 3 heads and 6 arms, some had huge scorpion tails behind them, and so on. Each of them had the appearance of a demon god and looked even more terrifying than the demon race. Of course, there were also demon gods that had a complete Tao form. The aura that these demon gods exuded could shatter the starry sky around them. Kill, kill, kill. The demon race and demon gods in the starry sky did not say anything. Amidst the sounds of killing, they waved their battle blades and charged forward recklessly. Hundreds of millions of demon race and demon gods fell like rain. A rain of blood floated on the battlefield. Katomi's eyes narrowed slightly. She stroked the zither in her hand and her expression returned to its usual calmness. Her face was cold and her mind gradually calmed down. This showed that her mental state cultivation was extraordinary for her to be able to regain her composure so quickly. Such a state of mind needed to be nurtured. How could one nurture it? The zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting could all cultivate one's mind. The mountain of blades is this blade prison. The middle-aged Confucian scholar explained calmly, this is not an ordinary blade prison. It hasn't been activated yet. According to what I know, once it's activated, the blade prison's blade chi will sweep across. Everywhere it passes, thousands of living beings will be instantly cut into thousands of pieces. If one dies here, they will never be able to rise again. What's even stranger is that the souls of the dead will turn into bloodthirsty demonic blades in the blade prison. It's extremely terrifying. Each time, more than 30% of the cultivators who enter will die in the blade prison. What? Turning souls into bloodthirsty demonic blades? That's so terrifying. Xiao Dai followed beside him and pricked up her ears to listen. When she heard this, she could not help but exclaim and look down. There were many blood-red battle sabers in the surroundings. The sabers were emitting a strange blood-red light. The blood-red light was filled with a bloodthirsty aura. Those blood sabers were all pointed upwards. Once they landed, countless holes would be created on the spot, sucking one's blood and devouring one's soul. There were almost countless blood sabers. At a glance, there were such terrifying blood sabers everywhere. Judging from their location, they seemed to be at the foot of a mountain. The mountain was a saber mountain. Countless blood sabers were piled up and slanted upwards. They were probably more than 10,000 feet tall. It was as if it was a demonic blade that was formed by countless blood sabers. Soaring saber chi pierced through the world. It blocked in front of all the cultivators. If they did not pass through the saber mountain, they would not be able to see the path ahead. There were no shortcuts. If there was a way to cross, they would have to walk through the saber mountain. Looking at the saber mountain, the saber chi continued to sweep and let out countless piercing sounds. One could feel that the saber mountain was definitely not easy to cross. If they wanted to cross, sure, they would have to pay with their lives. This is the saber mountain of the blade prison. We are only at the foot of the mountain. If we want to cross, we have to climb from here. However, the higher the mountain, the stronger the saber chi is and the more terrifying it is. When we reach the peak, the saber chi is strong enough to crush core formation cultivators easily.